You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
We're here, ladies and gentlemen, to present, as Charles Fort said in the early 20th century, a procession of the damned. And what he's talking about there are things that science cannot explain, doesn't want to explain, doesn't care about, whatever you want. We're here to talk about the things around us that don't have easy explanations, such as UFOs or flying saucers, ghosts, poltergeists, strange creatures of the night, weird conspiracies, the stuff of legends, going back throughout recorded history, weird things happening. We're going to try to understand what's going on. Now, a lot of people are joining the Paracast this week. You've never heard about us before, but certainly by the title of the show, you get the vibe that this is a paranormal radio show. It's a different kind of show, though, because unlike some of our competitors, we don't sit back and hear someone make a crazy claim and say, gosh golly, gee whiz, isn't that wonderful? We're going to ask some hard questions. Occasionally we've exposed fakers when they need to be exposed. In other words, we're going to take a serious look at this way out stuff, and we're all going to have fun. I hope so. We're going to try to find out what's really happening, but sometimes it's the thrill of discovery that makes it all worthwhile. And along for the ride, week after week, will be 4 co-hosts. These are friends of mine, and they've taken their own personal journeys into the strange and unknown, and in various ways, they're experts at what they do. I'll introduce them, and then we'll basically have everybody introduce what they are here for, why they're studying this crazy universe of ours, and maybe the discussion will get crazy, wacky, but I am going to be the fly on the wall this week. Going to sit back with you and let them talk, and let's see what they have to say. I'm going to read the guest list, not in alphabetical order, but just whatever order suits me, because I'm host, you see. We have Christopher O'Brien. He's done books like Mysterious Valley, where he explores weird goings-on in a particular area of Colorado and elsewhere. He's also written a book called Stalking the Tricksters. And sometimes he does a great trickster voice, right, Chris?
But not today, Gene.
Okay, thank you. You see, if I egg him on, he'll do it later. Or he'll do it off the air. Paul Kimball is a film producer. He's done documentaries on different subjects. He participated in kind of a ghost hunters type show in Canada. And also he has a documentary called Best Evidence about UFO cases, among many things he's done. Greg Bishop has also and continues to host his own mysterious radio show. He's written extensively on the subject. He's been around for quite some number of years studying these things. Nick Redfern, well, he's written so many books I can't begin to list them all. He's done a lot of mainstream writing. He's also written about the strange, the unknown, and he's always got a book up his sleeve. Every time we talk to Nick, he's got a new book, it seems, because he works very hard, and he writes day and night, as I said, normal subjects and the unconventional. And I'm going to ask our guests just what brings them, what draws them to this field. Greg, since you've done radio too, what draws you to UFOs and the paranormal?
I think the main reason is that I'm interested in things that tweak the nose of popular assumptions, popular knowledge, the assumptions people make and don't really think about too much. Anytime somebody's in there, or something, in the case of paranormal and UFOs, is in there kicking somebody and saying you don't know everything, or there's more you need to learn if you're open to it, that interests me, and that's what keeps my interest going.
How long have you been following this stuff?
I don't know, seriously, since the late 80s, but as kind of a reader and a consumer of the subjects, and probably since I could read. I was reading UFO and Bigfoot books from when I could put sentences together and make sense of them, actually, I think.
Now, since you work in the entertainment industry, and it doesn't matter where, do the people you work with look at you and say, you're weird?
Well, no, they don't, because, like a lot of people that are into this subject, you kind of know who you can talk to about it and who is probably best left alone. I'm lucky because in California, and especially in Los Angeles, I think people are more open to it. You can say that's because there's more fruits and nuts here, or whatever you want to say. However, like I said, I think people in California are more open to strange ideas or just non-conventional things. Weird California has done very well. It's a book I co-wrote about 4 years ago, and almost every place I go, if the subject comes up, I meet somebody who has read that book and enjoyed it. It's just about weird stuff in California, about UFO sighting places, Bigfoot, people's strange, things they do to their houses and property, haunted houses, things like that. But it's just kind of ingrained, I think, in people out here to just kind of accept it. And in the entertainment industry, actually, I think it's expected that you're going to be creative or weird in some way, no matter what you're doing in the industry. So I guess I'm kind of lucky.
Speaking of the entertainment industry, Paul Kimball, you're not making superhero films. You've done some stuff on the paranormal. Why these subjects?
Well, I'd just like to say, Gene, that if somebody's listening who wants me to make a superhero film, I'm happy to do it.
I think Christopher Nolan is trying to rejigger Superman. Maybe you're up for the job?
Superman, Batman, they've all been taken. I mean, we're sort of down to the sea-level heroes. So if anybody wants to do that elongated man film, maybe Aquaman, The Atom, I'm your guy. I know all those guys.
It's funny about The Atom, okay? The Atom, isn't his name Ray Palmer?
See, now you just ruined my segue. See, that was going to be a really clever segue.
Well, you see, it's because I read your mind, but let's have the segue. What does that mean to anybody? Because nobody knows what that name means, except those who are fans of The Atom and maybe 3 or 4 of our previous listeners.
Well, it's kind of the influence that the paranormal, if you will, has had on popular culture over the last 50 or 60 years. Comics, when they began in the 30s and 40s, Superman, Batman, there was this it's called the golden age of comics. And then they reinvented them in the late 50s and early 60s and brought in a more science fiction oriented. So Green Lantern, a DC hero, went from being a guy who wielded a magical ring to suddenly an outer space cop, basically. And everybody was kind of given a bit of a science fiction angle. And the Atom was a character from the old Justice Society of America in the 30s and 40s. And his basic power was he was a short guy, but he fought people. He was a boxer, brawler kind of guy. What they did when they reinvented him in the 60s is they made him a scientist who created a device that would allow him to shrink to submolecular level, to explore all sorts of places, to travel through phone lines and stuff like that. And then, in a nod to the influence that they had sort of had, they called him Ray Palmer. The character's name, his sort of Clark Kent name, if you will, his real name, was Ray Palmer. And, of course, Ray Palmer, to the listeners, I'm sure, would be well known for his contributions to, what would you call it, Forteana, science fiction, the whole enchilada. Gene, you're older than I am. You would know those better than I would.
Well, I'm older than everybody, but not quite as old as Ray Palmer was. But I knew Ray Palmer. And Ray Palmer was editor of Amazing Stories magazine in the 30s and 40s. And after a long absence, he brought back some classic sci-fi writers to the field, including Edgar Rice Burroughs. His final stories were written for Amazing Stories. But Palmer also got in touch with this would-be science fiction writer named Richard Shaver, who claimed to be in touch with people who lived in the caverns beneath the earth, remnants of an ancient advanced civilization called Deros and Tyros. And Palmer once started saying at one time, hey, this is true, folks. And you can imagine the people in the science fiction field saying, what? What do you mean it's true? This is science fiction. This is silly space opera kind of science fiction. You said it was true.
Amazingly, I don't know if it's amazingly, but there's no coincidence that after the Second World War, we have Roswell, whatever Roswell was taking place in 1947, the 1948 alleged Aztec crash, then Frank Scully's book Behind the Flying Saucers. All of this going on, flying saucers were big news. UFOs, the idea of life in outer space, atomic weapons, mutants, and all of that transferred into the world, not only of popular fiction, sort of pulp fiction, but also comic books, television, which was a new and growing medium, and feature films as well.
Our co-hosts, Paul Kimball, Christopher O'Brien, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast. Hey neighbors, have you been thinking about starting a website? Well, I'm going to tell you about a great offer from HostGator. HostGator is a world-famous leader in web hosting, and they make it easy for you to get your own .com domain name. You create your very own website with their free site builder tools and great selection of templates. Use the coupon code Paracast. Once again, use the coupon code Paracast and sign up at this special address, theparacast.com/gator. That's Gator, theparacast.com/gator.
Fate magazine provides true reports of the strange and unknown. Keep up with the latest on angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, life after death, and much, much more. To receive your free issue of Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit their website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
Making the right decisions is a challenge to investors. Are we going to see economic growth, slide into a recession, or at worst, depression? Hi, Ted Anderson from Midas Resources. We all know when a company acts irresponsibly, divesting ourselves in a move towards safety is prudent. When the market becomes volatile, U.S. Treasuries are a safe haven. But what do you do when the U.S. government overextends itself and spends beyond its means? Many investors are turning toward gold as a common-sense alternative to traditional paper investments. Midas Resources has put together a powerful book titled 10 Reasons to Own Gold, discussing costs, benefits, risks, featuring full-color illustrations, weights, and measures. The book is free and can be yours by calling 800-686-2237. Paper investments are dwarfed by gold's 6,000-year history. Discover how gold may be right for you and your IRA by calling 800-686-2237. Whether buying or it's time for you to sell, the book is free. Call 800-686-2237.
If you suffer from poor sleep, you've got to try MyPillow. Introducing the most revolutionary, most comfortable, and coolest pillow ever, MyPillow. Imagine your very own custom-fit pillow. MyPillow is the only pillow of its kind on the market that uses a patented fill, custom-made to your exact individual needs. MyPillow is 100% made in the USA and has a natural built-in cooling effect that keeps your cervical nerves cool, and that helps you get the best REM sleep possible. MyPillow helps alleviate snoring, migraine, sleep apnea, and other sleeping disorders. MyPillow is antimicrobial, non-allergenic, dust mite resistant, machine washable and dryable, comes in many sizes and will not go flat. And best of all, MyPillow comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what do you have to lose except poor sleep? Go to MyPillowShop.com, mention coupon code GCN and receive up to $40 off. That's MyPillowShop.com or call 952-442-6199. That's 952-442-6199. MyPillow for the rest of your life.
What started as an idea to provide power for a small hunting cabin has grown into a passion for creating an alternative energy source that's both affordable and reliable. At Wind Blue Power, our goal is to provide you with the best selection of parts and accessories to power your own ideas. Whether you're building a wind generator from scratch or you prefer a complete bolt-together kit, we've got you covered with fast worldwide shipping and impeccable customer service. Visit us at windbluepower.com. Think green, go blue at Wind Blue Power.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
We have a special co-host roundtable, and we're introducing to you, especially since we have many new listeners, Greg Bishop, Nick Redfern, Paul Kimball, Christopher O'Brien. We were talking about Paul Kimball and getting into some of the influences of the early UFO research, about science fiction, about all the things that happened in the late 40s that became so popular in our popular culture. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, sure. You were asking Greg, and you'll ask Nick and Chris how they sort of get into it. For me, it's a two-prong answer. It was business. In 2001, I did a film on Stan Friedman, It was the first film I directed. I'd produced a couple others, but I wrote and directed that one. So that was sort of my entree into the sort of my world of looking into the paranormal, not just the paranormal itself, but also the people. The people that are in it, like Stan, fascinate me too, that subculture. But all of us that grew up as I did in the 70s and 80s and the 90s, and even back into the 50s and 60s, would be familiar, we would be tied in a way that previous generations were not, to the idea that there are visitors from outer space, there are alien beings out there, that there, science, there's more than our science understands, that there's some really weird things going on potentially, and trying to tie that into a more modern scientific culture that we live in. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that people are interested in the paranormal, particularly where there's a scientific bent. It shouldn't come as any surprise that the extraterrestrial hypothesis is the most popular and widely known sort of paranormal explanation for UFOs, because it's what we all grew up with. So it just makes sense.
It's the theme of movies such as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, etc.
Right, absolutely.
Now, let's move to one of our other guests, Nick Redfern. What attracted you to the paranormal?
Well, I'm one of these people, I guess, who hasn't had yet, the definitive UFO or definitive Fortean experience. What got me interested is when I was about 5 or 6, I went to Loch Ness, spent a day at Loch Ness. Even at that young age, when my dad told me the story of the Loch Ness Monster, it kind of caught my attention and imagination. And I suppose like Greg, as I got older, sort of late single digits, early teens or whatever, I got more interested in reading and began to read a lot of things like John Keel and Stringfield and Kehoe, Ivan Sanderson and Bernard Hoovelman, some of the early people in cryptozoology. And it sort of captured my imagination, and I suppose I'm one of those sorts of people who doesn't really do well in the 9-to-5, quote, normal world, and I thought, well, there's got to be something out there beyond just going to school, going to work, and that's it. And so, I began doing investigations into strange phenomena and writing a few articles and book reviews for some of the newsletters that existed back in the 1980s in England, sort of self-published zine-type publications. And when I left school, I began working on a rock music magazine in England called Zero. And that sort of, which was really the only thing I wanted to do, and it was the only thing I could do. I wasn't that particularly good a student, and, but I enjoyed writing and enjoyed reading. And so, I was one of these people who I got interested in doing something that was really the only thing I could do. And, I found that, from my perspective at least, I enjoy doing the investigations. I think there's a lot of weird phenomena, if you like, out there that intrigues me, and I enjoy kind of like peeling away the layers of the onion, so to speak, to find what's at the heart of it. And there's other aspects of Forteana that just bore me stupid. I'm just not interested in. But there's certain ones like UFOs, cryptozoology, that do deeply interest me. So it sort of goes back to, like Greg, to my sort of formative years as a young kid, and then, listening to it and reading it wide-eyed, and then realizing that amongst a certain small amount of good stuff, there was a lot of very bad and complete nonsensical stuff. But, that sort of age 5 or 6, it's difficult to differentiate between the two. And even for some of us now, it's slightly difficult to differentiate between what's good and what's bad, but that's part of what we do. So.
And on this show, on the Paracast, we try to separate the signal from the noise is our motto. And what it means, ladies and gentlemen, is we try to look at claims that seem to have more of a basis of fact. Of course, when you're dealing with individual encounters where someone sees something, where 1 or 2 people see something unusual, it's really hard to prove. It's not as if you have rock-solid evidence about it. So the question I have to ask, obviously with Paul and Greg, they're in show business. We expect them to be weird. Nick, you, of course, wrote for Rock magazine, so it goes to follow. But do your people, now you're living in the United States, the people that you encountered say, oh, you're that guy who writes all that crazy stuff?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't say that most people where I live know anything about what I do anyway. Friends obviously know, but, beyond that, I would say most people in the street I live in don't know what I do. When I speak to people about it, I don't get people sort of like Greg. I think it's more like a stereotypical image. People think if you write about this, other people think you're weird. But I mean, I truly don't get people backing away from me or anything like that when I say I write books about Bigfoot. Some of them just might say, oh, that's interesting, what's on TV, but because they're not really interested. Others actually are interested to talk about it, and some are deeply interested. But, I think it is more like a media mythology that if you're into Bigfoot or UFOs, that you're kind of weird and on a par with almost like some antisocial idiot or whatever. So, no, I don't really get that sort of response. It's either, wow, that's interesting, or, that's mildly interesting.
Kind of like the Lone Gunman TV show some years back, the spin-off from the X-Files, where everybody there looked weird. That was that was the stereotype.
Yeah, no, my personal view is, there's a lot of people in the Fortean world who I disagree with and a lot I agree with, but where I would, sort of cast doubt on the image of, what we perceive to be is, as you've just said, with the Lone Gunman, these three sort of isolated guys who don't really have lives away from what they do and can't function in the real world and just live in like some attic or whatever with banks of computers. It's like, I mean, for me, I try and do a normal working day, sort of 7 till 5, and unless we're doing like radio shows or whatever, then, me and my wife just hang out at night, go out for drinks, dinner, watch TV. We do normal stuff. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. If you're into, most people in the UFO field aren't ufologists. They're people who happen to be interested in ufology. There is no such thing as a ufologist who that's their life. Or there are a few like that, but for the most part, it's people who have normal lives but have an interest in weird stuff as well.
You don't grow horns at night?
But not always, no.
Okay, only on Thursdays.
Exactly.
Speaking of tricksters and people like that, Chris O'Brien, what were you doing before you got attracted to this subject?
I lived in New York City for quite a number of years, through the mid to late 70s, through the 80s, and was a professional keyboard player, so I guess you can lump me in with the crazy entertainment types here. But my whole attraction to the subject matter happened as a result of a very life-changing experience I had when I was very young, just turned 7. And
we'll get into that life-changing experience in a moment. My co-hosts, Christopher O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast.
You are about to enter another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a sinister land of secret rites, passwords, initiations, and handshakes, where the truth remains hidden and history is controlled by an elite group of mysterious men. Imagine, if you will, that I'm holding a book in my hands that explains this secret history, and that the name of this book is Conspiracies and Secret Societies, the Complete Dossier. Here is described centuries of dark dealing, lies, murder, mayhem, and cover-ups in the pursuit of unimaginable money and power. My name is Brad Steiger, and the stories you are about to read may have actually happened at the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, Conspiracies and Secret Societies, the Complete Dossier.
Hi, I'm Mark Craighead, founder of Crossbreed Holsters. I designed our top-selling holster, the Super Tuck Deluxe, to solve the problems of being poked, pinched, and gouged while carrying concealed. The Super Tuck Deluxe is the most comfortable, most concealable holster on the market today. We offer a 2-week free trial and a lifetime warranty.
Visit us at crossbreedholsters.com. Don't forget, CrossbreedHolsters.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Remain in your houses. The President of the United States has declared martial law under Executive Order 11,004.
Will they do it? Will they pull the trigger this time? We all pray they stand down, but an engineered crisis seems more likely with each passing day. Think it can't happen here? Executive Order 10990 locks down all highways. Executive Order 10995 seizes control of all media outlets. Executive Order 10998 controls all farms and food supplies. All these executive orders are now cocked, loaded, and waiting for the right crisis. So if you're worried about the possibility of martial law here in America or have questions about how to survive it, go to martiallawsurvival.com. That's martiallawsurvival.com. Go to martiallawsurvival.com right now.
You must remain in your houses until your bracelets are scanned.
Question. What would you rather drink? Acidic water, which burns holes in your body and causes loss of bone mass? Or alkaline water, which promotes high energy and vibrant health? The answer is clear. And if you're drinking acidic water, you're helping cancer cells and bacteria to grow out of control. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using Plasma pH Drops is the best way to alkalize your water and help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy alkaline level. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, or cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or by calling 269-409-1776. Again, 269-409-1776.
Tired of searching for great talk radio?
And I think it really does make a difference.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
You're in the Paracast. We're talking with Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. Christopher O'Brien got his first exposure when you were 7 years old?
That's correct. I didn't ask for it, but it happened, and it definitely had a lifelong impact on me. And I've always had an absolute deep fascination for, UFOs, the paranormal in general, across the board, subject-wise. And I happened to move to a very interesting region of Colorado in the late 80s, and inadvertently got involved in becoming a field investigator. I innocently started out just to write a little 500-word article for my little town paper and reporting on a whole slew of UFO sightings and cattle mutilation cases that were taking place. And I ended up on national TV in 2 months, so it just kind of grew a life of its own. I was able to get a network of law enforcement, ex-military people, ranchers, farmers, college students, housewives, a whole network of skywatchers to feed me leads on reports. And I spent 13 solid years running around investigating, just an incredible potpourri of unusual events that occurred in the San Luis Valley, Colorado, where I lived. So that's kind of how I got involved in all this. And unlike a lot of people, I think that are closet buffs in this field, I have no qualms about stating my interest in these subjects. I've never really felt that the subject matter was ever held against me. I think anybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty level-headed. So I think that actually helps people understand, I think, a little bit more why I'm so motivated. Unlike a lot of people in ufology, which, has always constantly sort of surprised me. Most ufologists have never really had any sort of personal experiences. I know Stanton Friedman, for instance, has never seen a UFO. In my case, because we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sightings, and I had a really extensive network spread around about 10,000 square mile area, I was able to run out, and I've had quite a number of experiences of objects and lights and actually structured craft that just, don't conform to what you would consider conventional, let's say, military or conventional crafts. So my fascination with this comes fueled by personal experience. And, I'm not a true believer. I have a hard time even believing some of my own experiences. I'm very skeptical but open-minded about these subjects. And I'm very sensitive to how the culture is trying to program itself into believing, I think, cut and dried sort of, answers or supplying answers to a lot of these mysteries that are too simplistic in my view. And I think we're dealing with a much more complex scenario, and that's why I really love the Paracast and the forums and this show, is because this show stretches our points of belief and I think it's going to get the listener to really think about what they truly believe, why they believe it, and open them up to alternative ways of looking at these mysteries.
Considering the alternative ways of looking at the mysteries, of course, the conventional wisdom, such as it is, and how can you deal with conventionality when you're talking about the unconventional, is when you say flying saucers, UFOs, it's ET. ET is here. They're coming to look at us. In Independence Day, they're coming to destroy us. ET, the extraterrestrial, they're taking soil samples, whatever. But you're saying it's more complicated than that. So do you not believe that there's an ET?
Well, I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion with billions of galaxies and quadrillions of stars that there's got to be some form of intelligent life in this three-dimensional cosmos or universe that we inhabit. But whether we're important enough on this little blue marble spinning in space for any of them to come here and conduct, medieval medical experiments. I love Terence McKenna says that they're uninvited pro bono proctologists. I love that particular way of looking at it. I don't think we're important enough for anything out there to come and exhibit the types of behavior decade after decade that it just doesn't make sense. There's something nonsensical, something tricksterish, something that doesn't add up in terms of looking at all these visitations, let's say, from an ET hypothesis standpoint. I think there's something much more intense, complicated, and probably closed system. I think that some way humanity is in some way, shape, or form helping manifest these entities here in our reality.
Well, when I talked to Paul Kimball on an earlier episode, he had taken the position he thinks ET being the more likely explanation. So what would you have to say to what Chris explained here?
Well, I'd say that everybody's entitled to their opinion. I respect Chris's. I just disagree with it. I think, to me, there's absolutely no question that the extraterrestrial hypothesis makes the most sense. It doesn't mean that it's proven. It doesn't mean that other possibilities might not be true as well. There probably is more than one answer, including the fact, well, I shouldn't say fact, but including the likelihood that most UFO cases, and perhaps even all UFO cases, with proper investigation, could be explained in prosaic terms, what we would consider prosaic terms, meaning man-made or of our own world. But if you look for a paranormal explanation, and I use the term paranormal to mean something outside our realm of experience as humans walking on this planet, and I would include aliens from another planet as being paranormal, then I think it's the most logical, the most likely explanation that also doesn't require us to stretch the boundaries of scientific understanding to the breaking point and beyond, because we can already travel to other worlds. We already have. Whether we've traveled in person to the moon, or we've traveled by robots to Mars, or by probes to the outer edge of our solar system, even us poor little monkeys on this blue dot can travel within our own solar system. If you posit a civilization that's a few hundred or even a few thousand years older than us, then who knows what they're capable of. And as to why they would come here, well, they might not be here for us. They might be here for what our planet offers. We don't know what the universe offers, what our planet might have that we don't even understand is valuable. I mean, when the European explorers came to North America, there were things that they assigned value to that the indigenous natives did not. And conversely, there were things that the Europeans really didn't assign value to, but the indigenous natives found quite valuable, which made for a very unfair trading system. But when you're dealing with different cultures or different races or different peoples, or in this case, different species, how can you say what might or might not be important to them? And when you do that, you're assigning human motivations to something that is inherently alien. So, as I said in that previous Paracast episode, Gene, I know that people look at the high strangeness aspects of some UFO cases and say, well, that couldn't possibly be alien. I would expect...
Before we go further, we go further, using the term high strangeness, define what you mean by high strangeness.
Well, using a UFO case here that has characteristics that seem outside the norm, and talking about the norm of UFO cases, but let's talk about the ones that flying saucers, the supposed aliens from outer space. People see structured craft flying through the sky, and that's about it. That would be a normal, if you can say normal, UFO case. The high strangeness ones are the ones where something very different happens. There's a case from Nova Scotia here up in Canada from the 1970s where you had two groups of people in two houses right next to each other, both of whom were experiencing totally different things from one object that was up in the sky, which the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, witnessed and reported. That would be a high strangeness case. But there's nothing about that, to me, that rules out an alien explanation. In fact, I would expect visitors from other worlds to be extremely highly strange to us, to the point of, as Arthur C. Clarke said, their technology appearing to us as magic. I would add their motivations, their actions appearing to us in many cases as magic, or something, as Greg and I were in the Magic Castle just 2 weeks ago, that would seem, like when he pulls the Diet Coke bottle out from under the handkerchief, very strange. I can't explain. That's highly strange to me. But that doesn't mean that an interdimensional being from the 8th dimension or something, or a crypto-terrestrial, just means it's strange. But in terms of the scientific logic of it, to me, without ruling out any of the other explanations, which even the ETH, Stan Friedman doesn't rule out those explanations. He just focuses on the extraterrestrial one.
We'll focus on more stuff in a moment. We're talking to Paul Kimball, Greg Bishop, Nick Redfern, Christopher O'Brien. You're in the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans a galaxy. A thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition.
Your natural organic herbal formula for heart health is Heart and Body Extract.
My name is Fan, and I'm 68 years old, and I live in Vermont. In the spring of 2003, I started to have problems with my heart. It felt like my heart was pounding, made me feel breathless. I tried many different things to try to get some help for myself. Nothing did anything.
Heart and Body Extract is very powerful, very effective, and works quickly.
I saw one of Sharon's ads and ordered Heart and Body Extract. I noticed a difference quickly, within days. The episodes became less frequent, and by a month they completely vanished.
Usually you find a 30-day or 60-day guarantee. Heart and Body Extract comes with a lifetime 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. Call 866-295-5305. 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
Where have all the military surplus stores gone? Don't worry, you don't need one, because everything you need at Military Surplus is at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, one of the last surviving true military surplus stores in the country. Go online now to MaineMilitary.com and discover a source for hard-to-find surplus items at true surplus prices. Surplus gun cleaning kits as low as $2.99. Complete chemical suits as low as $11.99. See our huge selection of gas masks, filters, and accessories. Finish at M10 gas masks are 3 for $30, and Swiss filters are 3 for $12. Searching for Strike Anywhere matches? MaineMilitary.com has them, plus a whole new product line of survival and first aid kits and lots more. Get free shipping on orders over $50 only at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, or call 877-608-0179, 877-608-0179. MaineMilitary.com, the Maine name in military supply.
When you hear the words water purification, what comes to mind? If it's Berkey Water Purification Systems, this message is for you. Did you know that over 60% of municipal water contains fluoride at less than 2 cents per gallon? Berkey water filters purify treated and untreated water, remove dangerous chlorine, fluoride, and contaminants from municipal water. These filters are powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water, making them perfect for rainwater collection systems. From the smallest to the largest systems, BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has what you need. With your system purchase, you'll receive a shower filter, a fluoride filter, or 2 sport Berkey bottles absolutely free. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com would like to offer GCN listeners 5% off all ceramic filter systems and ship all orders over $50 free of charge. Visit BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. Or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY today.
Bringing you the best in alternative talk radio for over 10 years. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
We have Chris O'Brien, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop, Paul Kimball talking about high strangeness, but saying that just the presence of E.T. on Earth, because of the fact they're probably way, way far advanced compared to Earthlings, they can be pretty strange.
Yeah, well, I would expect they would be pretty strange. And I think you asked me why I'm interested in all this, and I think at the end of the day, I did a show with Don Ecker a little while ago, and we talked about this. Don Ecker, a sort of legendary UFO researcher. And Don kind of asked me why I was into all this, and I said, well, look, if there are aliens, I can't summon them. If there are interdimensionals, if there are crypto-terrestrials, whatever, I can't make them appear. What interests me more is sort of the journey of discovery, of trying to figure out not only what these things are, but I think more importantly, that path that you take helps you figure out who you are. So I think, as I said to Don, I can't prove that aliens from Zeta Reticuli exist, but I'm not out to. I'm just kind of here to prove that I exist. And I know that might sound a little new agey, except in Greg's state in California, but I think that's what the journey of discovery is. You're sort of trying to find out as much about yourself as you are about these UFOs or Bigfoot or whatever. And that's part of interacting with our world and trying to understand that there's something more than just the reductionist box that maybe modern society would want to keep us in. So it's about stretching your minds. And if Chris's mind stretching takes him over here and mine takes me over there, well, at least we're thinking about it. And we're thinking, I hate this phrase, but outside the box. And that's a good thing. Greg, you've been mentioned a couple of times there. Where does your mind stretch?
Well, I agree with Paul that the ETH is probably, from our point of view, the best explanation for where UFO phenomena originates, or a lot of it does, at least the truly unexplained stuff. However, the reason I am more interested in some of the other explanations, what people would call an interdimensional explanation or a crypto-terrestrial explanation, which we can get into, and other things besides pure aliens coming from other planets, is just because it's more exciting and more interesting to me, and it brings, it throws more ingredients in the soup, if you want to call it, and brings more subjects to the table and expands your awareness and your thinking a little bit more into other areas. Now, whether they're fruitful or not as a solution to the UFO mystery, I don't know, but it makes it far more interesting. And as Paul said, and as I've said when people have asked me this, I don't know if I'll ever find an answer. I don't know if Paul will, or Nick will, or Chris will, or you will. But the point is that along the way, I've learned so much about myself. I've learned about other people. I've learned about the scientific method. I've learned about psychology, sociology, all kinds of things. And as long as I keep my mind as open as possible to, logical, interesting arguments and evidence, then I keep myself, occupied. And on top of that, I meet cool people who I can talk to, like the present company here.
Thank you. Me, I'm just old. But in fact, I think Brad Steiger once said, I was here before the dinosaurs ruled the earth. No response. I figured that. I expected that. It's just one of those delayed reactions. That's okay, Greg. I'll forgive you next time.
What? Me? There's three other people on with me. Brad Steiger, I don't care how old he is. He's one of those people that everybody should listen to because he's been around so long that there's almost nothing he says that if you don't agree with it, at least it's interesting.
Nick, what is your definition of high strangeness?
Well, I can understand where Paul's coming from. The one reason why, I wouldn't say I vehemently disagree because, none of us can really know.
We can be vehement if we want, Don't worry about it.
Well, we can, but we can't because we don't have enough evidence one way or the other to definitively say A, B, or C. But what I would say, one of the reasons why I kind of veer towards the idea that it's not just, quote, just E.T. coming to visit us for scientific reasons or whatever, is that one thing that a lot of people get, and I know Chris has had, and that I get a lot of, and I don't think it's coincidence, is that the more you dig into paranormal phenomena and UFOs, the more weird synchronicities you begin to experience. Now, almost as if you're living in some sort of weird Matrix-type world. And for me, I obviously don't understand. If ET technology exists, we can never sort of anticipate how advanced it is. But, I have a hard time understanding how aliens can come to the Earth and those of us who investigate it, as a consequence, start experiencing weird synchronicities if it's just nuts and bolts aliens.
Okay, synchronicities. Would you define what you mean in this case?
I will. Synchronicity is basically a meaningful coincidence where something happens in your life, you're investigating something. Let's say you go to a bookshop and you're investigating a 50-year-old UFO case you can't find anything on. You happen to browse through the bookshelves, you knock a book off, you pick it up and it's fallen open to the page where it mentions the very thing you're looking for. That's like a synchronicity. And, lots of people within ufology get those. I even know people who are vehement adherents of the ETH and who've had them and have found it very disturbing that could happen, almost as if they're being manipulated. And also what I call crossover cases, which lead me to, again, veer away from the ETH. Crossover cases being where you get elements of one aspect of a Fortean mystery involved in a case involving another aspect. For example, if you look in the whole history of Fortean mysteries, you find numerous cases, folklore, stories, tales of encounters with weird entities and beings at bridges. You can find any culture on the planet pretty much, and there's a little local folklore in the town about the headless lady who haunts the bridge, over the river, that sort of thing. And you get UFO cases along those lines. You get Bigfoot reports, you get ghosts. Now, of course, you could argue that that's because they're simply folklore. But when you get things like that, or you get a Bigfoot sighting in association with weird lights hovering over the woods, then, to me, we have to look beyond just the idea that aliens are visiting us. Doesn't mean they're not, but to me, we have to take it beyond the realm of, sort of the more Kehoe era of ufology, which still pervades much of ufology today, where people just look at it as more advanced beings with a scientific approach coming to the Earth and, conducting experiments and then going back again. To me, even if that is what's going on, there's something more significant that we don't understand going on as well.
Paul, you had a comment?
No. My only comment would be I don't disagree with Nick. All I said was if I was going to assign a likelihood, which one is more likely than this one, and that one's more likely than that one. I find the ETH to be the most likely explanation. But as I said, it doesn't exclude the other ones, and it certainly doesn't mean that you might be dealing. I mean, you could pull out 5 UFO cases and of different types, and you could say, okay, well, if you had to assign a paranormal explanation, fine, that one seems more like an extraterrestrial hypothesis. But this one over here, this is really weird. I mean, who knows? And so, the key is to just keep your mind open. I agree with Greg and Nick and even Chris. The only difference between Chris and I is we do, I think, sort of assign a different weight to which one is more likely. But it's not, unless I misheard Chris, he's not ruling the extraterrestrial thing out as a possible explanation, and I don't rule the other ones out as a possible explanation.
Chris?
I really, listening to Nick, listening to everyone here, this is so stimulating for me to be able to talk about these things in a non-judgmental way and agree to disagree. I think Nick's observation concerning synchronicity and meaningful coincidence is very important, and that, in my mind, is one of the most important clues that I have as an active investigator. I've had outbreaks of UFO sightings that have also had attendant cattle mutilations, Bigfoot sightings, unusual weather, strange societal events that occur, all within a 2 or 3 day time period. Also, abnormal amounts of strange fires in the area, going around and seeing all this roadkill on the road for some reason. If you start lining these different, what seem to be, totally unrelated type, facts together, and then you look at how they all seem to bell curve over a specific time period, that to me indicates that we're dealing with something closed system. Perhaps ETs are coming and somehow are able to affect our reality and somehow manifest these attendant types of phenomenal events. I tend to think not, though. Actually, I think it's something that is closed system. I think that we're dealing with a energetic process that we have not even begun to understand.
You know what? At that point, we're going to break for the hour. We have Christopher O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast.
Paul Kimball, Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop, Christopher O'Brien. In our last hour, we were talking to Chris and about the nature of his interest in UFOs, about the fact that in addition to the standard ET-type UFOs, all sorts of other stuff is going on around it. By the way, folks, if you want to find more of the things that we do, go to theparacast.com. That's our website, theparacast.com. We also have forums at forum.theparacast.com, where we talk about not just UFOs, ghosts, poltergeists, and conspiracy theories, but just about politics, anything. Anything that, of course, comes to our mind, even music, because we have musicians, entertainers here. So, Chris, let's get back to this aspect. And, gentlemen, just chime in if you feel necessary at this point. We're going to really open up the discussion. All right, so we have the standard UFO. We have the strange creatures. Can we think maybe the strange creatures are coming from spaceships?
Well, that's a definite possibility. And like Paul, I don't rule anything in or anything out. I just tend to take the data that I personally have been able to amass. And, it's one thing to be an armchair ufologist. I think there's a real problem, I think, in the field. People have a sense of being able to figure things out. And I was like this, too, for many years. It wasn't until I got into the field, actually looked witnesses in the eye, worked with law enforcement, worked, closely with a network of folks that were highly motivated to at least document these events. It wasn't until I got to that point that I really started to get a strong sense or a hunch that we were dealing with something infinitely more complex than a single answer. And to be honest with you, going into my investigative work prior to moving to the San Luis Valley, I thought that, it was all ETs and the UFO sightings and ufology in general was all based, on aliens coming here from some other star system or galaxy. It wasn't until I had these meaningful coincidences that Nick very astutely pointed out. It wasn't until those types of events started happening to me, up close and personal, that it really made me do a 180 about face and really start to second guess my assumptions about these types of events. So, I think everyone has their own sort of gut feeling about what is going on in this whole realm, and I think that is a really good place for a person to start and to really kind of sense how their gut is telling them what's going on, what could be possibly behind it. So my gut's telling me that we're dealing with something a heck of a lot more complicated. And, of course, we haven't even begun to factor in the very likelihood of black budget money and your tax dollars at work and play and, disinformation, very well orchestrated hoaxes. It's a very complicated kaleidoscope of elements that we're dealing with.
All right, so you raised the subject, black projects. In what fashion? What is the black project? The UFO investigation, secret weapons, what?
Well, I think all of the above. A really good example would be during the height of a pretty intense sighting wave that we had in Colorado. I happened to be driving one night back from a gig pretty late at night. It was just after midnight. If I had been any further away than I was from the following event I'm going to describe, I would have thought I saw a huge 300-foot UFO. What I observed was three, what appeared to be, by the sound of their engines, because I did stop my car and listen, what appeared to be three cargo planes flying wingtip to wingtip. Across the leading edge of their wings was a perfectly sequenced chain of lights that would blink from the far left plane all the way down that plane, across the wing of the middle plane, all the way to the right plane, all the way to the end, in a burst of about 30 or 40 different white lights. It went just, like a sequence of lights that would flash about every 5 seconds. And if I had been any further away than 5 miles, I would definitely have thought I saw a huge, UFO flying over. But it was three cargo planes, wingtip to wingtip, with a synchronized light that flashed on the leading edge of all three planes. Now, why would the military do that in the midst of a sighting wave period? Why would they trot something like that, light it up like a Christmas tree, and then fly it down the middle of the San Luis Valley? That indicates to me some sort of psyops, sort of psychotronic, experiment, if you will, to see if anybody's going to see it, to see how they report it if they do, to see how the local law enforcement responds to the report, to see if the local media picks it up, and then to gauge the reaction in the public and as it filters into the culture to see what sort of impact and how that impact plays out in the culture. And it's these types of events, I think, and I've got a whole bunch of them, that indicate to me that our government, and the military, or possibly quasi-military, paramilitary, whatever, is engaged in some sort of psychological weapons experiments, trying to gauge the effectiveness of conventional and probably non-conventional technology.
Nick, I think this is an area where I think you'd have some useful comments to offer.
Well, this is an area I have looked into. It's a controversial area, and one of the reasons it's so controversial isn't because it couldn't be true that the government, is using psychological weaponry, if you like, or materials or technology, and that this has a bearing on the UFO issue. That's not the problem for a lot of UFO researchers. The problem is that it affects and undermines their belief systems. There's so many people within the UFO field who fortunately, not like anybody on the show right now, but who are, quote, true believers. And if you start saying, well, this case or that case may actually have been some sort of psychological warfare program, or maybe the people involved were subjected to some sort of modern-day MK Ultra mind manipulation program, they get very defensive because you're dealing with potentially upsetting very deeply held belief systems about certain cases. And I think possibly that's why, to some extent at least, the whole psychological warfare manipulation angle of the UFO subject has remained a fringe aspect, is because ufology attracts true believers, and true believers don't want the status quo upsetting. For example, I wrote a book, Body Snatchers in the Desert, about the Roswell story. Greg wrote Project Beta, or as we say in England, Project Beta. And which also, I guess, undermines certain ufological themes. And, of course, both books are panned. Now, whether people feel, the books should be supported or not, the fact is, in part at least, one of the reasons why there was criticism was because certain people in the field quite simply didn't like what they were hearing or didn't like what they were reading.
It's blasphemous.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to get past within ufology. We need to recognize that nobody really knows what's going on, and if there is a deep or even a fringe or a small amount of, psychological warfare involving the government, it's still an important aspect of the subject, and to dismiss it because it's not an exciting tale about aliens eating people under Dulce, New Mexico, well, that's, to me, that those are the people with the problem. If you cannot face the possibility that there's something else going on, you shouldn't be in the subject. So.
Body Snatchers of the Desert. Give our listeners kind of a brief summary about that book.
Well, basically what it was, I interviewed about 6 or 7 people, elderly people, who essentially related the same account, but broadly from their own perspective, and said that in the summer of 1947, when the whole Roswell thing kicked off, that there were a number, not many, maybe 5 or 6 experiments undertaken in the New Mexico desert, high-altitude experiments using large balloon arrays and Japanese prisoners of war to test the effects of high-altitude exposure on people, and that most of these experiments failed. Most of them were recovered quickly by the military. In one case, the one that became known as the Roswell incident, a civilian, Mac Brazel, got there before the military, and it led to the legend of the Roswell incident. Now,
so basically, we're doing experimentation on human beings here, and
yes,
we're trying to... Sure. Okay, so that gets to raise a whole can of worms, and that can of worms will be opened shortly. We're having a special co-host Paranormal Roundtable featuring Chris O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast. Okay, neighbors, here's the problem. Face-to-face business meetings with clients and colleagues are always going to be important. But business travel is a hassle, and it's often a complete waste of money. Well, here's a solution for you. Do more, travel less with GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting is an award-winning online meeting service brought to you by Citrix. With just a click, host sales presentations, training sessions, or product demos right from your own desk. Avoid the hassle of traveling and still exceed your sales goals. Plus, GoToMeeting is just $49 a month for unlimited online meetings. Plus, voice over IP and phone conferencing is included. My listeners can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. Once again, GoToMeeting free for 45 days. Visit gotomeeting.com/podcast.
9 years, thousands of clients worldwide, amazing results. And here's more proof of the effectiveness of how Heart and Body Extract supports good circulation and healthy arterial flow.
My name is Crystal. I'm a 45-year-old and live in Houston, Texas. I was diagnosed with having mitral valve prolapse 10 years ago. My cardiologist said surgery and drugs was the only thing he could offer me.
What did Crystal do?
I ordered Heart and Body Extract in August 2006. When I first took my first 15 drops, I embraced the formula and could even feel the goodness of the formula starting to work.
Clean, clear arteries are happy arteries after using Heart and Body Extract. Learn more at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. HB Extract comes with a 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
Making the right decisions is a challenge to investors. Are we going to see economic growth, slide into a recession, or at worst, depression? Hi, Ted Anderson from Midas Resources. We all know when a company acts irresponsibly, divesting ourselves in a move towards safety is prudent. When the market becomes volatile, U.S. Treasuries are a safe haven. But what do you do when the U.S. government overextends itself and spends beyond its means? Many investors are turning toward gold as a common-sense alternative to traditional paper investments. Midas Resources has put together a powerful book titled 10 Reasons to Own Gold, discussing costs, benefits, risks, featuring full-color illustrations, weights, and measures. The book is free and can be yours by calling 800-686-2237. Paper investments are dwarfed by gold's 6,000-year history. Discover how gold may be right for you and your IRA by calling 800-686-2237. Whether buying or it's time for you to sell, the book is free. Call 800-686-2237.
If you suffer from poor sleep, you've got to try My Pillow. Introducing the most revolutionary, most comfortable, and coolest pillow ever, My Pillow. Imagine your very own custom fit pillow. My Pillow is the only pillow of its kind on the market that uses a patented fill, custom made to your exact individual needs. My Pillow is 100% made in the USA and has a natural built-in cooling effect that keeps your cervical nerves cool, and that helps you get the best REM sleep possible. My Pillow helps alleviate snoring, migraine, sleep apnea, and other sleeping disorders. My Pillow is antimicrobial, non-allergenic, dust mite resistant, machine washable and dryable, comes in many sizes and will not go flat. And best of all, My Pillow comes with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what do you have to lose except poor sleep? Go to mypillowshop.com, mention coupon code GCN and receive up to $40 off. That's mypillowshop.com or call 952-442-6199. That's 952-442-6199. My Pillow, for the rest of your life.
Tired of searching for great talk radio? Search no more.
It's good stuff.
We are the GCN Radio Network. You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
Welcome back to our Paranormal Roundtable with Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop, Chris O'Brien, co-hosts all. You're in the Paracast. Chris, I think you have an answer, right? Or at least a response.
You know, I've always looked at this subject matter, and like I said, it is a very complicated kaleidoscope, but it always has reminded me of a sleight of hand magician. Sleight of hand magic is very intriguing to me, and one of the things that you notice right off is that they always try to get you to look at the right hand while the left hand's actually, you know, up to the tricks. So I have always had a sense that we are being programmed to believe that certain things are so, when in fact there may be the right hand may be deferring to the left hand in terms of what actually is going on. So, you know, again, I really think that it's important to remain open-minded, to not factor anything in or out, let the data, you know, kind of drive your conclusions. At this point, we don't really have the quality of data that we need to you know, prove any of these potential theories as being correct. So, and that goes with the ETH as well. I mean, we don't have one shred of physical evidence that, you know, shows us that we are dealing with something off planet, just as we don't have any real evidence to show that the government is behind most, if not all, UFO sightings, as some more conspiracy-minded people would suggest. So I think that it by its very design, this is a very tricksterish scenario. And, bringing that up, of course, I just wrote a book that looks at how the paranormal could be an illustration of a collective manifestation of tricksterism that we are all collectively unleashing upon ourselves. And that, of course, that's probably, subject for a whole show. But
okay, so collective tricksterism, meaning that our subconscious creates these events?
Exactly. I would equate it as to being like a cultural stigmata, for instance. Stigmata, of course, is the spontaneous manifestation of faith in an individual. It's probably has deeply rooted psychosomatic, causal elements going on. Padre Pio, of course, was a very famous stigmatist. Stigmata is manifesting the wounds of Jesus. Oftentimes, the scent of roses is also detected by people nearby. These wounds tend to not heal. This is a very interesting, I think, psychosomatic phenomenon. And I think what I'm suggesting is that the collective human unconscious on some level knows that we are going to, at some point, have to leave this planet. We're going to have to get out there and see the universe in order to save ourselves, because eventually we're going to be hit by like a Cretaceous ending asteroid event that happened 65 million years ago, or the sun's going to go into a spasm and fry the Earth, or eventually in 1 billion plus years it's going to go supernova. So I think collectively we all know this. And so I think what we're doing on some level is manifesting real phenomena that are inspiring us and motivating us to get off planet, to get out there and see the universe, like a breath of wind blowing a dandelion, and all the little dandelion seeds go flying off into the wind. At some point, we're going to have to do that for the human race to survive. There may be some sort of evolutionary imperative that is contained within the collective unconscious. Again, I do go with the Carl Jung idea of the collective unconscious, the manifestation of very basic symbols in all cultures around the planet. So, I mean, we really need to get creative and start factoring out closed system possibilities, closed system explanations before we get anthropomorphic enough to jump off planet.
Greg, where were you jumping with this?
Where am I jumping? I thought of a few things while people was talking. One was a government angle, which a couple of Chris and Nick mentioned that I wrote a book called Project Beta, or Beta, Nick? Beta. Beta. What that book dealt with was the story of a guy who was basically looking at things he wasn't supposed to. He was looking at U.S. government operations, exercises, things like that, at a military base in New Mexico. Now, he thought it was aliens and UFOs from other planets, and he told the military that. And they either, it wasn't true, or they just didn't want him to think that, so they started telling him to continue to report to them. And eventually what happened was he ended up in a mental institution, and the government kept all its secrets. And the book I wrote about it, people were kind of irritated with it because I did not make a lot of UFO researchers look very good, mainly because it was a warning. People say, why is this important? Why is this government angle important? And I think it's important, at least from the standpoint of what I wrote, is because if some of these things come down the pike again, or we are being fooled again by somebody in the military or in the intelligence services of our country or any country, we should look for look for the hallmarks of that and take things with a grain of salt till we can find out a little better. And as for the high strangeness part of things and what Nick mentioned and getting involved, that's real interesting to me, because I think when he said that, I realized when my mind kind of got flipped from being asking people, talking to people, doing interviews and that, to being sort of very deeply involved with it. It was when I interviewed a researcher named Carla Turner, who is dead now, the night before I interviewed her, and she was an abduction researcher who claimed to have had abductions, and her family had them, UFO abductions as they're called. The night before I was going to interview her, I started waking up. I got very nervous. I couldn't sleep, and I woke up at 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, 5:55, and 6. Well, that's as far as it goes.
You mean
6:66.
precisely at those times?
I would wake up and I would look at the clock, and that's what time it would be. And so I went to interview Carla that day, and I said, Carla, what's going on? I woke up and she said, that's funny. Nobody's ever mentioned that, at least back in 1995 when I interviewed her. And that's a classic UFO abduction scenario, that somebody who's being affected by beings or whatever you want to call them, being abducted, having encounters, wakes up at those times. I said, I don't remember any such thing, and it's never happened to me before. And it never happened to me after that. So what was going on there? What was I becoming involved with? I don't know. And there was no way I could have gotten that information because nobody had ever talked about it. So, the phenomenon becomes recursive to you and starts talking to you. And at that point, a lot of the bets are off, and you've embarked on a completely different voyage than you signed up for a lot of the time. Another reason why all this continues to fascinate me.
Well, okay, this creates a whole bunch of things that we can talk about, which one of the possibilities being that maybe you were abducted because you kept getting up at those particular times, and I can't even begin to have you answer that question on this segment, and we will in a moment because we're getting to that time again. A reminder, ladies and gentlemen, you want to find out more about the show, theparacast.com. It's got the THE ahead of it. Theparacast.com is our site where you can check out every single episode since the show debuted in February of 2006. We also have very active discussion forums at forum.theparacast.com. That's forum.theparacast.com, and some of our co-hosts occasionally drop in to say hello, but it's really a place for you to participate. We're talking to Christopher O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to MrUFO@webtv.net. That's MrUFO@webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
When you hear the words water purification, what comes to mind? If it's Berkey Water Purification Systems, this message is for you. Did you know that over 60% of municipal water contains fluoride at less than 2 cents per gallon? Berkey water filters purify treated and untreated water, remove dangerous chlorine, fluoride, and contaminants from municipal water. These filters are powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water, making them perfect for rainwater collection systems. From the smallest to the largest systems, BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has what you need. With your system purchase, you'll receive a shower filter, a fluoride filter, or 2 sport Berkey bottles absolutely free. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com would like to offer GCN listeners 5% off all ceramic filter systems and ship all orders over $50 free of charge. Visit BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. Or call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY today.
If you owe the IRS money you can't pay, then listen carefully, because you already know that the problem won't go away by itself. You can get help today from the leading tax expert in the country, Dan Pilla.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. The IRS isn't going to just forget about you. Right now, the IRS is hiring thousands of tax collectors to go after delinquent accounts just like yours. That's why you need to take action today, and I can help. I take a simple but proven approach to solving your tax debt problem. First, I stabilize collections so you don't have to worry about wage and bank levies. Next, I build a detailed plan to get your debt reduced to the fullest extent possible, sometimes even eliminated. Finally, I work with you every step of the way to get your problem solved once and for all. So call now for a free consultation. Call 1-800-346-6829.
Dan Pillow will solve your tax problem, guaranteed. He's helped thousands of people, and he can help you too. Call us today at 800-346-6829. That's 800-34-NO-TAX.
Listen up, folks. This is important. Alex Jones here. Now you can get free shipping on the storable, easy-to-fix, delicious food from eFoodsDirect.com from July 4th through July 14th. We have looming evacuations in the Southeast, unemployment insurance running out, and predictions of huge inflation. So we all need to get as much food as we can. Every one of you needs to buy as much storable food as possible. This is the perfect time to do just that with eFoods Direct and take advantage of their free shipping special. When you order from eFoodsDirect.com from July 4th through July 14th, every dollar you spend will buy the food, and eFoods Direct will pay for the shipping in the continental United States. This is Alex Jones wishing you and your family true independence this 4th of July with great food and free shipping through July 14th from eFoodsDirect.com. You can order on the website eFoodsDirect.com or simply call 800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633 or on the web at eFoodsDirect.com/ship free.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio.
You guys are awesome. I love the station. I really do.
GCN.
Hi, this is Nick Pope. You're listening to the Paracast.
This is the co-host roundtable featuring Greg Bishop, Nicholas Redfern, Carl Kimball, Christopher O'Brien. Paul, so were you abducted?
Safe to say that the answer to that question is no. Not for lack of trying to be abducted by any one of a number of young actresses. But
yeah,
so far,
I was going to say.
He's married now, so he can't do that anymore.
Who's married? Greg's married.
Yes.
I'm not married.
Well, then you want to be abducted.
Yes, exactly. That was my point.
Paul still has a chance. I don't.
Okay, everybody who got that raised their hands.
Okay, mine's up.
Everybody's hand is down. Everybody's thumb is down. I'm sorry, Paul.
No, that's all right. Sorry. That's what I get for trying to be funny.
No, it's okay. I mean, we are all trying to be funny. I never succeed, so anybody who can manage it is just marvelous. But seriously, Greg, you think having those crazy experiences, getting up at those weird hours, something really happened to you, or was it just because you had somehow gotten into some kind of mental rhythm there?
I think it's more of the second because, one, I didn't have any other indication that anything else was amiss, and two, that I guess, like anybody, that's what I choose to believe based on the evidence that came to me then and later, and I nothing else weird happened. One other weird thing did happen. The day after I left, when my friend took me to the airport, he said that when he got back, his neighbors said that two people who were dressed in some sort of workman's clothes were doing something to his water heater. It was one of those ones that's external outside the house in a little metal shed. And they left, and before my friend got home, the fire department came because the water heater caught on fire and almost burned the place down. And I don't know why they were doing that or if it had any relationship to what had happened to us that weekend, but it seemed like, and Chris and Nick, I think particularly, and Paul with his ghost hunting, will confirm this. When you get into certain areas, you somehow enter some sort of weird field, and things start making either weird sense or no sense at all, but it's all happening around you for a little while. And most of the time you can't make any head or tail of it, but you seem to be in the center of it. And if you're lucky, sometimes you get you might get a lesson out of it. If you're unlucky, it drives you crazy and you drop out of the field, I suppose.
It's funny, ladies and gentlemen, I dropped out of the UFO field 3 or 4 times in my life. And I don't know if I can answer that question. I don't think anything weird happened to me. But, Paul, you were involved in a Canadian-produced ghost hunting type TV show. Did you ever meet up with a ghost or something really weird?
Well, those are two different questions. So, did I ever meet up with a ghost? I don't know. And even if I did, I'm not sure I'd know it because I'm not sure what anybody means by ghost. But I'll adopt the definition that you mean somebody who's died and passed on to the next realm, if there is such a next realm.
Okay, granted. Let's use that one.
Sure. I don't know. Beats me. Did I have any weird experiences? Sure. Absolutely. I mean, you can't go as Holly and I did, my co-host Holly Stevens and I did, to 12 actually 13 different allegedly haunted locations. And even if, by sort of process of osmosis, you hear that you know that these are supposedly haunted going in. It's not like you operate in a vacuum. Even if your crew just drove you to a house and dropped you off, you'd still know that the crew was driving you to a house that was supposedly haunted. Why? Because you're doing a ghost hunting show, not a cooking show. So any ghost hunter, and I use the term ghost hunter not to mean a particular series, but any so-called ghost investigator that shows up on TV and tries to pretend, well, we had no idea what to expect. Yeah, right. You absolutely know what to expect, and you've been briefed. So maybe there's things playing on your mind. Even taking that into account, there are ways where you can sort of you always find new things out when you get there. And sure, there were 5, 6, at least 6 of the places we went that I think Holly or I, or in some cases Holly and I together, had what I would call a genuinely weird experience. Doesn't mean that it couldn't be explained in prosaic terms. It just means that I can't explain it in prosaic terms, and I've tried. So, but what that means, I don't know. All it means is something strange happened to us. And
lay 1 or 2 on us, okay?
Sure. Actually, I'm trying to, because I've done a lot of shows promoting this, including an episode of the Paracast, that if you go in the archives, Holly and I were on back in April of 2009, I think, and we talked about ghost cases. One of the ones that I haven't really talked about quite so much which involves physical evidence, I guess. We were at the Algonquin Hotel, which is in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, on the Maine border. Very creepy, very old hotel. And there were a number of sort of ghost stories about this place. I think every building in the Maritime provinces in Canada is haunted. There's always a story. But one of the particular stories that we focused on was a bride in one of the rooms on the 4th floor. She, about 100 years ago, had showed up for her wedding. The husband had jilted her at the altar. Although for some reason my co-producer didn't want me to use the word jilted in my narration. I still don't understand that, but that was my co-producer. But she was jilted at the altar, so she went up to the 4th floor, and as the story goes, she jumped out the window and killed herself. Well, perfect. And now people have reported seeing her in the hallway and experiencing things in the room. So Holly and I would run this segment we called Spooky Hour, where we would spend about an hour in whatever the supposedly haunted room was, and try and make contact for, see if anything would happen. So it was us, maybe 1 or 2 lights to give it a spooky ambiance for television. Because again, if anybody on a television show tells you that they're not ramping it up because it's television, they're lying. So I have no problem telling you, yeah, sure, we lit the room to make it look slightly spookier because it's television, people. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. But we also took what we were doing seriously. So you got the lights, you got us, you got the camera set up, and that's it. So we sit there, I do my shtick because I'm single and I was in a long-term relationship that broke up. I focused on that. I figured, look, you got dumped. Mine didn't work out. I tried to pick up the ghost, for lack of a better way of putting it, which I think quite upset Holly. She was, she was more upset than she usually was with me, and I'd done some pretty strange things. So anyway, nothing really happened. We went on, did our business, did some other things, ran some other sort of segments, and then the crew and I were all going to pack up. We're done, thank you. And Holly we had set up DVR cameras, small mini DV infrared cameras throughout the hotel. We did that every place we went. Standard tools of the ghost investigating trade. You'll see them on Ghost Hunters and all those shows. So we had set one up in that room right by where the window was, but pointing into, so you could see the room. It was just the best place to put it. We had the station, a computer station, at the opposite wall that just happened to be where after Holly and I had been done in that room, the crew had set up, because we were done in that room, they said, fine, we'll put the computer panel here that monitors all the DVR things, because we had moved on somewhere else. Now there was nobody in the room. Holly came back in, and as she tells it later, she said she felt like she had to apologize to the spirit of the wife or the bride if she was there. For me, I never asked Holly to apologize for me, but she felt she had to. So she goes back in, and she just gravitates towards the monitor. It's the bright, shiny thing in a dark room that's showing pictures. So she just naturally went there to have a look. As she kneels down on the stool to take a look at it, from the wall right beside her head, and this is being picked up on the DVR camera that is recording from the window in this direction. And I'm not I think up until this point I thought every orb on the planet could be explained in prosaic terms. But here's what happens. An orb forms right next to her head and flies directly across the room in a straight line like it's not a piece of dust. It's a straight line, and right out, although you can't see it leave, but right by the camera, right to where the window is that the bride supposedly jumped out of. Now, to me, that's very interesting, and people we've shown that to, including a show on A&E, which is going to be showing it in the U.S., they were so interested in it. It's the kind of thing that you really don't see on Ghost Hunters or any of these other shows, and we happen to catch it. But what makes it even more interesting for me is that just after the orb flies past Holly's head, manifests and flies past her head, while it's still on screen, she turns around. She turns around and looks directly at the window, at the path that the orb is taking, as if, she put it later, as if she felt like maybe she sensed something behind her. Now, that's a story that contains a lot of moving parts. I wasn't even there, but I can review the footage. I can look at it. I have the greatest respect for Holly, who has a bachelor's degree in science. She's not a wingnut. She's a skeptic, like me. And both of us came out of that thinking that there may actually have been something paranormal happening there. Couldn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. All you can do is show people the footage and show them Holly and let her tell her, why she turned around, and say it's not just one thing that you can discount. You have to discount both things, her reaction and what you see on the screen. Good luck.
Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop, Paul Kimball, Christopher O'Brien joining us. You're in the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans the galaxy, a thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition.
You've seen our SinoFresh banner on the GCN website, yet your sinusitis is still a problem. Are you waiting for your sinusitis to go away by itself? Are you waiting for a SinoFresh discount? Okay, here it comes. But first, the facts. 67 other products merely treat symptoms and not the cause of sinus problems. And 37 million Americans suffer from sinus distress just like you. But now many are finding relief with the only patent-protected homeopathic nasal product that antiseptically eliminates the known causes of sinusitis. SinoFresh. Now, here's your limited-time discount offer to use SinoFresh. Call 888-906-3636 right now for $2 off per bottle when you mention GCN. That's it. Just call 888-906-3636 and mention GCN for a $2 discount. But hurry, this offer is only for the first 1,000 customers. Call 888-906-3636. 888-906-3636. Call right now for $2 off per bottle. Mention GCN. Buy SinoFresh.com. It works.
You worry, but only because you're paying attention. What's happening in the Gulf of Mexico illustrates an audacity toward nature. A similar audacity called GMO, or genetically modified organisms, means that the quality of commercially grown food may be compromised with our health in the balance. Now that summer's here, what better time to learn about the bounty that nature provides in wild edible food? Let author Linda Runyon show you the best-kept secret in plain sight, that food is everywhere you look. This summer, for the cost of a good meal or two out, you can literally starvation-proof yourself and your loved ones against any future craziness, and put up tons of free food, too. Whatever experiment is being run on us, you can rest assured that Linda's 50 or so staple foods aren't involved. Our foods are their enemy. So go to ofthefield.com or call toll-free 1-888-51-EAT-FREE and take that first step. Make your oasis of food security and nutrition now. That's OFTHEFIELD.com or call 1-888-513-2837. Start now and make 2010 your year of independence.
Question: what would you rather drink? Acidic water, which burns holes in your body and causes loss of bone mass, or alkaline water, which promotes high energy and vibrant health? The answer is clear. And if you're drinking acidic water, you're helping cancer cells and bacteria to grow out of control. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using Plasma pH Drops is the best way to alkalize your water and help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy alkaline level. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, or cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or by calling 269-409-1776. Again, 269-409-1776.
Tired of searching for great talk radio? Search no more.
I'm told that it has everything.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
Our special UFO Paranormal Roundtable featuring our co-hosts Chris O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. Now, Paul, we should mention also that most of the so-called orb photos are really just dust reflections, right?
Yeah, and camera artifacts, all sorts. I mean, you should come into my apartment. There's dust flying everywhere.
In fact, your entire apartment is, I understand, an orb reflection.
It's an orb factory.
It's not there. It's just an orb.
An orb factory. Yeah.
I go out on the sidewalk
orb
in the
farm.
afternoon. Orb farm. I like that. I go on the sidewalk, free-range orbs, everybody. And, I sort of sell them along with lemonade to little kids walking by.
He makes a lot of money, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, he's got a franchise opportunity for you.
Yeah, Orby McOrby's Orbs Emporium. So there you go. Check it on the internet if you can remember that.
I think somebody's going to register that name right now.
Probably. So I had seen umpteen numbers of photos of orbs. We'd even recorded video of orbs, which I would look at and I would go, well, that's clearly dust, or it's just moving like dust. I don't find anything remotely anomalous about this. My co-producer, who was perhaps a little more interested in ratings than I am, or perhaps he believed, I don't know, he took them more seriously. To get me to put them in an episode, I was just like, right, great. I'm not doing the narration for it. Get Holly to do it, because I can't do it with a straight face, with the exception of the Algonquin. And, this is why I think people should take seriously a guy like me when I say something like this. Because there you are. I basically just said 99.999% of all orbs can be explained. But then a guy like me comes forward, a true skeptic, and I say, you know what? I can't explain this one, particularly given the circumstances. So I think, don't listen to the believers, and people know what I mean when I say that. Don't listen to what Greg would call the fundamentalist skeptics, the people who I call them disbelievers. They're the two sides of the same coin. Listen to the true skeptic, the people that are not convinced but keep an open mind. And I think all four of us here, in our own ways, are true skeptics. And Gene, too. I met the four co-hosts. And when people
I'm
like us...
I'm always an afterthought, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm the afterthought. Don't worry about me. I'm just the fly on the wall.
Yeah, well, you're not involved with Orby McOrby's Orb Emporium, so...
I wish I was. I could use the extra cash. Maybe we can do a deal on the side here.
Ground floor. He just announced it.
That's right. Grounded floor of Orby McOrby's. That's going to be my Facebook update later tonight. Paul is now the manager of Orby McOrby's Orb Emporium. And nobody will know what I mean.
And farm.
And farm, sorry, yes.
And by the way, we can't run a stock offering. There are certain SEC regulations. I understand that some people in the UFO field don't care about the SEC, but we do.
Yeah, right. Sean Morton will.
You know who doesn't care about the SEC, Gene? Canadians. I mean, I don't
That's
care.
right. You're a Canadian, so you have your own authority. Don't you have some kind of equivalent agency up there?
Yeah, probably. I don't worry about them, the feds, until they come knock on my door with their hooded soldiers or whatever.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening in Canada, you are a hooded soldier, look up Paul's address. You know which address he's using right now. You know where he is. You know what he's doing. You know how to go after him. Go ahead.
Sure.
My permission.
There's all sorts of them. They were busy oppressing, peace-loving citizens in Toronto at the G20 just a week ago. So I'm sure they have nothing better to do right now. So send them on down to Halifax. Here I am. Come on down, boys.
See, we never discuss politics here, right? But something that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about government projects, black projects, secret government stuff. Anybody amongst this panel pay any heed at all to the claims of secret governments, secret leadership, that kind of stuff? Anybody want to jump in?
Somebody jump in.
Well,
I do sometimes. Go ahead.
Well, sometimes, I would say so to the effect that in the event of a national emergency, there are rules and regulations in place to, I won't say overthrow the government, but basically to, embark on a path that's akin to like martial law. There's no doubt about that. I mean, back in England, for example, in the late 1990s, I remember a friend of mine who had connections at the British government's Home Office actually showed me a number of documents drawn up in the event that, there was a nuclear war. The documents, which I actually have copies of, which talk about, things like invoking martial law, using like tear gas on people to prevent them getting to food supplies and things like that. And that's only one step away from firing squads, etc. in a national emergency like a nuclear attack, localized or countrywide. And countrywide, of course, isn't probably be nobody around to control things anyway. But I think whether or not you agree or perceive that as being like a secret government, or you perceive it as being the extreme form of government in the event of the most mind-numbing, worst disaster ever, I think is kind of a moot point. Do I think the Bilderbergers are going to take over the world tomorrow with the help of the reptilians? No, I don't. So.
Okay, Chris, because you covered all those strange events in San Luis Valley, anything amongst all those crazy things give you the impression of government involvement of some sort?
Absolutely. In terms of the operative word there, Gene, is impression. Yes, many times I was impressed. Can I prove any of some sort of nefarious agenda that could, somehow be, connecting all these what seem to be divergent events? No, I can't. But if I have a wave of UFO sightings and, several dozen reports and also military convoys that nobody can really identify are zipping around the valley. In one case, we have a National Guard unit that used to be a medical unit. Now it's a military police unit. They were sent out for training on some maneuvers, I think in another state. And while they were gone, there seemed to be military convoys being reported by a number of witnesses zipping around the valley right at the height of a UFO wave. Now, I personally am impressed by that. Can I prove that there's any sort of connection between the appearance of a shadowy convoy activity, on that weekend? No, I can't. There may be no connection at all. It may be some sort of coincidence or meaningful synchronicity. What have you. But, I really think that the military-industrial complex, that nefarious multi-headed beast that Eisenhower warned us of when he was leaving office, people say, well, is there going to be disclosure of the UFO mystery and what our government knows? Is the government going to disclose this? Heck no. It's the military-industrial complex, in my opinion, that probably has is holding the strings of knowledge, I think, in many ways. I think our elected officials are probably as out of the loop about much of this stuff as we are. And I think it's your aerospace companies, it's your high-tech, black project developers. I think they're the ones that are probably the ones that are riding herd on a lot of this information. So when we say black projects, government, military, we also have to include the corporations that tend to call the shots in much of what goes on, at least here in the United States. They definitely have to be factored into the equation. So, you talk about underground bases, you talk about exotic aerial craft, these types of things. Sure, the government probably has a role in this, but I think a lot of this really is on the doorstep of the high-tech aerospace companies and others.
There also were reports back in the 1950s that, as a matter of fact, it's one of the discussions that have happened over at the Paracast forums at forum.theparacast.com, where President Eisenhower, met E.T. back in the 1950s. Anybody lend credence to any of that? Okay, that's a good answer. Thank you.
No, I haven't heard anything to convince me of such things, and many things to not convince me of it, because it's based on inferences from documents that have been uncovered about Ike's whereabouts when he was out here visiting California and Palm Springs in 1956 or 7 or whenever it was. No direct evidence. But, of course, there's no direct evidence of any of these things, so you kind of take it under advisement. However, there are people that are willing and want to believe such things, and those are the ones that push it as the truth. Because they want it to be the truth. Now, from most people's perspective, it's just, like I said, inference from a vagueness about where Ike was for a few hours on one day on that trip out to California.
Isn't that something where he supposedly went to a dentist or something? Of course, I was alive in the 50s, but I don't remember that particular case. But some people think I've been alive for so long it doesn't matter what case is involved. I probably must remember it. I remember Ezekiel's Wheels. Someone wrote me a letter. Gene, you remember Ezekiel's Wheels, don't you? We have Paul Kimball, Nicholas Redfern, Greg Bishop, Christopher O'Brien, because they're just great co-hosts for the Paracast. I don't want to emphasize one over the other, so I vary the pace in the introductions. Another hour coming. You're in the Paracast.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Hi, Ted Anderson. I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast.
You're in the Paracast, our introductory show for the GCN network. We're doing a special co-host roundtable, where a band of experts or ne'er-do-wells, whatever you prefer, is here to tell you how things came to be, what they think about all the weird stuff that's going on. We have Greg Bishop, Nick Redfern, Paul Kimball, Christopher O'Brien, experts all. Paul, looking from the outside, looking in as a Canadian, what do you think about all the government conspiratorial talk?
Well, it depends on what you mean by government conspiracy. Do you mean that the aliens? Do you mean that the government has a flying saucer in a hangar at Wright-Patterson or Area 51? No. Do you mean that Majestic 12 exists, or some organization like that is guarding the secrets, probably along with the Ark of the Covenant and everything else Indiana Jones ever found, to the alien presence on Earth? No. The 1955 Eisenhower story? No. I mean, I could just go down the list and go, no, 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 no. Does that mean that there are no conspiracies? Of course not. Does that mean that the government isn't involved in some really strange, freaky, sometimes or oftentimes illegal things, often directed at their own citizens? Well, if you don't believe that, you should buy Greg's book, Project Beta. I've become the pimp for Greg's Project Beta.
You mean Project Beta, don't you?
Project Beta, yes.
Project Beta. Yes, and I appreciate it, Paul.
Lovely Beta.
What was there in that book again, Greg? It's still available now that we've been pimping this book. We're selling this book, Project Beta. Can we buy it still?
Yes, it's still on Amazon I guess, and from probably various used booksellers. It's been out for a while. I don't know if it's officially out of print. It might be, but it's a 5-year-old book. It's still out there. And when I have another book to pimp, I will present that one as well.
I am happy.
I was lamenting today that our friend Mac Tony isn't around because I wanted him to draw a comic book about a day in the life of Nick Redfern. He wakes up in the morning and there's a book on his pillow because he wrote it in his sleep. And then he proceeds to write 3 or 4 more books during the day as he's doing various activities and appear on 2 or 3 radio shows and television programs. Then at night he's got another book about halfway done before he passes out. That's how prolific Nick is.
Okay, Nick, you're the center of the conversation here. Just how many books have you written about anything?
Well, coincidentally, I had a new book out last week called Monsters of Texas, which is all about cryptozoological creatures in Texas. So
we'll have to do a show about that in the near future.
That was called a synchronicity, you see. Greg brought it up. It just so happens that I did have a new book out.
And by the way, how much money does Nick owe Greg for this?
I shall pay him in their records or something.
It's a percentage. We've worked out a percentage deal.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Of course, that's pretty good. Front end or back end? Because the back end, of course, you never get any money. Seriously, Nick, okay, so since we dropped your name into the pile here, how many books have you written? Fess up.
About 20, something like that.
Okay, you're getting close to my total. I have 30. Most are technology books that nobody has ever read.
I've got 5.
Not mine. Oh, you mean you wrote 5?
Brad Steiger's up to like 170 or something. So.
Oh, heavens, yeah.
Him and Tim Beckley, and then Chris is in second place here with 5.
4 published.
Tim cranks them out like daily, literally.
Tim has written about 400 books. Wasn't there, I won't mention his name, some crazy UFO writer who said he was going to do 1,000 books a year?
No, it was a 500-book deal.
I think it varied. I heard it was 1,000-book deal. But even more so, the fact is, what is it, 1 word per book? How do you do that?
Well,
you have 1 word saying book 1, 600 pages that are all blank.
Yeah, with 1 word. And you got to get a cliffhanger at the end of each one with that 1 word.
Well, Walter Gibson, who was one of the people who wrote shadow novels in the 30s and 40s, he wrote 300 shadow novels. 300.
Ouch, I wonder what his wife thought.
Not a lot, probably.
Well, they were short novels. It's not like, it would be a book of about 150 pages or something. It wouldn't be a 300 or 400 page book or something like that. But 300.
It's probably hard to think when you're spending all your time with the pool boy.
You know more about this author than we do, I guess.
Well, I mean, if you wrote 300 books, the wife's got to be doing something.
Well, he died at the age of 88. His name was Walter Brown Gibson, and he was a magician. And, if you look him up, he was one of the people best known for writing 300 novel-length shadow stories under the name Maxwell Grant. He wrote up to 10,000 words a day during his heyday.
Oh,
can you do that, Nick?
Oh, God.
No, I can't.
I think he can.
I probably could, but I'd end up probably a very sad individual if I did. So.
And he wouldn't be
Mrs.
married.
Redfern would be kicking you in places you don't want to know about.
Exactly.
So, Paul, when's your book coming out?
Well, weirdly enough, I legitimately was supposed to co-write one on the Ghost Cases series, and I more or less kept up my half the bargain, and my co-author didn't. So that book will never see the light of day. But I am working on a book of poetry, but it's not paranormal poetry. So that's all I have to offer.
Oh, well.
I do films. I make films.
Well, you can call each film a book in a sense because it's a complete project. How many films have you done?
Well, I mean, how many have I done? 12, 13, maybe 14 documentaries, feature films, and stuff. But one film is probably worth about 5 books given the relative pay rates. So.
I don't want to tell you what I used to get for these computer books. I write these computer instruction books. I did close to 30, and I got worn out real fast because they wanted the complete book in like 3.5, 4 weeks.
Ooh.
I was going crazy. And one day I woke up and said, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I don't mind writing. I've been writing since I was, 15 years old. But I can't do this. So here I am. This is all I have left, folks. Sorry.
I took a look at my LinkedIn page, and I've done 5 documentaries related to the paranormal and the Ghost Cases series, so 13 episodes, rather, of ghost hunting. There's a fair bit of paranormal stuff there.
Now, you have some new films coming out, 1 or 2 of which are straight-ahead movies. They're not documentaries.
Yeah, one of them's weirdly enough, even though I did a feature film, it was about vampires. So
vampires are big now. I mean, everybody loves vampires.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they were big in the 30s too. I mean, vampires are timeless creatures. But yeah, I co-wrote too a script with our good friend Mac Tonys, which he didn't live long enough to see the script finished, but based on a short story that he had written a few years ago. So we're hoping that will be in production in 2011. But try and keep busy. You can't spend all your time surfing message boards on the internet about paranormal stuff. It does tend to get a little dull after 5 or 6 minutes.
And of course, if they have a C-level comic book character who really needs a first-class film, his name is Paul Kimball, folks. It's Red Star Films.
Elongated Man. I really want to do an Elongated Man film. And then maybe we can team up with the Marvel franchise and have Mr. Fantastic meets Elongated Man.
I'm not going to touch that one.
Yeah, no jokes about Elongated Men.
Yeah, well.
There used to be a character called Plastic Man when I was a kid.
He's he's different, but the principle's the same. These guys who can stretch. So, there's your superpower for you. Comes in handy in a bar, though. I would say, if you're in this really crowded bar and you don't want to have to walk to the bar, or frankly, the washroom, stretching is good. Yeah.
I'm not going to touch that.
Well, I should hope not. That would be very...
Because, we're just stretching out here. Ha-ha.
Yeah. You do
talking about the things that go bump in the night and trying to figure out why a film about some character called Elongated Man would work. I think they gave up on the Fantastic Four franchise after 2 films. Okay? So that was it. By the way, this isn't it, but we are talking to Paul Kimball, Chris O'Brien, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast. Hey neighbors, have you been thinking about starting a website? Well, I'm going to tell you about a great offer from HostGator. HostGator is a world-famous leader in web hosting, and they make it easy for you to get your own .com domain name. You create your very own website with their free site builder tools and great selection of templates. Use the coupon code Paracast. Once again, use the coupon code Paracast and sign up at this special address, theparacast.com/gator. That's Gator, theparacast.com/gator. For 58 years, Fate has provided true reports of the strange and unknown. Fate brings you the latest in all aspects of the paranormal, like angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, and much, much more. To receive your complimentary Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit their website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
Gold. It's like nothing else on Earth. From the Romans through the Renaissance, from the Industrial Age to the Space Age, gold has weathered the test of time. For 6,000 years, gold has remained the ultimate store of wealth. According to the World Gold Council and the U.S. Mint, demand is at an all-time high. The stage is being set for the reemergence of gold as the common-sense alternative to a fiat paper currency that gets weaker every day. Midas Resources is proud to offer the hard-hitting report that arms you with the truth you need to protect you and your family from the Fed's plans for your hard-earned money. Don't gamble with your future. Call Midas Resources today and ask for your free copy of As Good as Gold. Call 1-800-686-2237 for the report the Fed hopes you'll never see. As Good as Gold can be yours by calling 800-686-2237. If you have ever thought about owning gold, you must read this report. Call Midas today at 800-686-2237.
Of the 3 million plus edible food plants that grow on Earth, no other single plant can compare with the nutritional value of the powder, seeds, and oil of the hemp plant. At hempusa.org, we ship worldwide these nutritional products with free shipping to the U.S. and Canada. At hempusa.org, we want to educate our listeners that edible hemp is not marijuana and is certified THC-free. Our powder is 50% protein and does not contain gluten. Gluten impairs the cells from absorbing nutrients. This nutrient-dense food can be stored up to 5 years when vacuum-packed and is priced affordably to be used as a storable food. HempUSA.org is a bulk shipper starting with 5 pounds and up. To allow this food to work for you, call 908-691-2608 or go to hempusa.org and order today. The body will react and heal itself given the proper nutrition. This superfood will be your greatest asset. So try it today, store it today, and change your life. Call 908-691-2608 or order from hempusa.org.
Normal blood pressure, naturally. How would that make you feel?
I'm Don from New Mexico. January of 2000, I had a heart attack. Then my real health began going downhill, and I had high blood pressure, high blood sugar, poor vision, and I really wasn't sleeping well. I was a mess, pretty much.
Don reports dramatic improvements with Heart and Body Extract.
I started taking Heart and Body Extract, and from within a few days, I started sleeping a lot better. My blood pressure normalized, my blood sugar normalized, and my sleep really did improve.
Experience these benefits and more when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract. Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
And folks, I did not expect this at all. By the 7th, 8th, and 9th day, I saw dramatic improvements from taking Heart and Body Extract.
Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
On air, online, and on demand.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast room. You never know what's going to happen next.
A special co-host Paranormal Roundtable featuring Greg Bishop, Nicholas Redfern, Paul Kimball, Chris O'Brien. Chris, you have a film in production, maybe?
Well, I've actually been, like Paul, I haven't been Mr. Producer, but I have been involved in quite a number of actually ghost investigations and documentary films in the past 6 years. And I am working on something now, which I'm not allowed to really talk about, but I know it sounds kind of weird, but
I have 3 expert questionnaires who are sitting here, and they are going to get the information out of you by hook or crook.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. It is a follow-up to our inaugural project called Dead Whisper, which chronicled a crack team of ghost investigators going to some of the more notorious haunted sites in America. And we are doing a follow-up piece to that, but I can't divulge the actual locations where we've already done our filming. But yeah, I am involved pretty extensively in the video production realm. My literary pursuits are my primary focus. I am working on a follow-up to my last book, Stalking the Tricksters. And I'm also working on a guidebook to portal areas in the southwest United States.
Okay, you have to define the word portal areas for people who aren't familiar with that terminology.
You know, I've kind of come up with a formula, which I think if you use it properly, you'll be able to identify an area of interest in terms of the paranormal. If it's an area that has a a history of sacredness to indigenous peoples who've lived there for hundreds, perhaps thousands of years. If there's sacredness attributed to that spot, if there's a fairly well documented history of unusual events, UFO sightings, crypto creatures, and that sort of thing, paranormal type phenomena. If there's unusual geophysical properties that can be ascertained about the area, whether it's the close proximity of maximum intensity and minimum intensity Earth magnetic field interaction in close proximity, and if the government has an interest in the area, a presence in the area, and especially if they're trying to expand that presence more fully into the area, you have pretty much, I think, a formula that will give you an indication that a particular region or locale is a potential hotspot, portal area, window area. And over the years, I've done quite a bit of traveling around the southwestern United States, the Four Corners area, and taken quite a bit of notes and video and photographs of particular areas. And I'm putting together a guidebook for people who are interested in maybe doing road trips through the Four Corners area. And this will be a where to go, where to stay, the best, approach in a, depending on the amount of time you have, obviously, but for just your casual tourist to, a real hard-boiled investigator, this is going to be a guidebook for where to go in the Southwest United States. This is something I've been working on for quite some time. I'm really putting it on the front burner so that I can get this thing published and get it out there.
Is this anything like the TV series from the BBC, Primeval, where you might step into a portal area and find yourself in the past, the future, somewhere else?
Well, we don't really know. I think it's an area where you tend to have a clustering of various types of so-called paranormal phenomena. And I think these areas, the Uinta Basin, for instance, around, the Sherman Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, if you will, would be an example of one. The Sedona area here, the San Luis Valley. There are other areas around the Southwest that can fit into that formulaic sort of scenario. And, it would be great, when I was back in college and doing, setting out on a 26,000-mile road trip around North America, I had this really cool book called Weird America, which was a county-by-county, state-by-state listing of areas where very interesting paranormal type events had occurred. I'm taking that one step further.
Classic book, if you can find it, Weird America by Jim Brandon. And then he had a follow-up book, which is probably, I think, one of the most important paranormal books ever written, which is called Rebirth of Pan. The subtitle was Hidden Faces of the American Earth Spirit. And I think Chris has probably read that, and I'm sure that Nick has. I'm not sure about Paul.
No.
Sounds like The Trickster by another name.
Well, it kind of is. What it basically does is examines North America from as far back as you can possibly, as he could possibly go when there's human habitation, and examine things like out-of-place artifacts, meaning things that have been found that shouldn't be there, like things with Greek inscriptions on them found underground in rock strata that's a few thousand years old, and things like that. Things like this that have been found all over the United States. And then, as Chris has said, so-called portal areas, places he said that tend to cluster around. He said underground places, places with underground caverns and mines and things like that. That's just barely scratching the surface of it. But and he also talks about the interconnectedness, seemingly, of UFO phenomena, Bigfoot, ghosts, the paranormal in general, and it's the only book he wrote, really, specifically about the paranormal, besides that guidebook. And it's one of those things where it happens often. Somebody will write one book about the paranormal, this blazing comet, and then they never touch it again. Jim Brandon did that. Who's the William Bramley, Gods of Eden? I've always thought was a fascinating book too. That was the one book he wrote about the UFO subject and then didn't anymore. Keith Thompson's book, Angels and Aliens, which looks at the UFO subject as an evolving system of myth, which is fascinating. That was the one book he wrote. It was excellent, and then he quit. It's happened a lot.
Frank Salisbury and the Utah UFO displays. Very, very good book. Very tough to get, but again, it conforms exactly with that one book wonder.
Well, sometimes you write the one book and it's not a bestseller, and you want to get back to a normal life. Or how many UFO books even become bestsellers? People think we're in this crazy field to make money.
I don't think you get into the UFO field to make money. And if you do get in the UFO field to make money, you'll be out of it very quickly.
I know there's some who try, and I think one of the things we've done on the Paracast over the years is expose a few people. I won't mention their names. They do not deserve the publicity.
Mention them.
Well, you mentioned Sean David Morton, who has had SEC problems. We've had Bill Nell, who sold books and DVDs that he had no authority to sell. I
didn't really care until I found out he was selling a DVD with my lecture on it. Something I had produced in the 1980s, like in 1988, he was selling as his own, and I wasn't getting any money off it. So yeah, there's a lot of people that do this, and I guess you can make money off the UFO subject if you're unscrupulous enough.
Well, I guess if you don't put any time or effort into it, to making the content, you just go ahead and you use Handbrake or one of these programs that copies a DVD, and you make unauthorized copies. If you do that, well, there's no problem then, because you're not really doing any work. It takes an hour or two, and you just put it out into the wild. So you can see, folks, that some people in this field do things hoping to make money. I think in the end they don't make money anyway, even if they try to. We have Chris O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to MrUFO@webtv.net. That's MrUFO@webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
Question: what would you rather drink? Acidic water, which burns holes in your body and causes loss of bone mass? Or alkaline water, which promotes high energy and vibrant health? The answer is clear. And if you're drinking acidic water, you're helping cancer cells and bacteria to grow out of control. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops combine a unique formula of the most alkaline minerals. Using Plasma pH Drops is the best way to alkalize your water and help you get rid of acid and regain your health and energy. Simply put 10 drops in the water you drink to raise the pH to a healthy alkaline level. Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. Disease organisms like bacteria, viruses, or cancer cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops now by going directly to alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or by calling 269-409-1776. Again, 269-409-1776.
Global meltdowns, massive unemployment, endless wars, a new currency crisis, financially and morally bankrupt. A great and terrible storm is approaching. So what's the best way to get ready? To get prepared for hard times ahead? Introducing Off the Grid News, a weekly newsletter for independent patriots who want practical advice on how to survive and prosper in an increasingly dangerous world. It's the best way to get a black belt in emergency preparedness, survival skills, and off-the-grid living. Off the Grid News is fiercely independent, all about self-reliance, and packed with helpful information on survival gardening, food preparation, alternative energy, herbal medicines, privacy and security, as well as God, gold, and guns, with absolutely no apologies. And the best part? This $100 a year service is now free of charge for our listeners. That's right, free for our listeners who sign up at offthegridnews.com. That's offthegridnews.com. You can sign up for free at offthegridnews.com. offthegridnews.com.
Now you can purify the water and filter the air in your entire house for less. Keep listening for discount information from airandaqua.com. Airandaqua.com has everything from whole house air and water purification systems to air conditioners, shower filters, water testing kits, atmospheric water generators, and much more to keep you and your family healthy. Now, airandaqua.com has developed 2 value-packed money-saving packages. Package 1, the Pure Whole Home Water Package. It includes 3 very important elements to purify the water in your whole house. Package 2, the Whole Home Air Package, with an ultraviolet light system that kills 99.9% of airborne bacteria and viruses. Get more details on both of these air and water filter packages at airandaqua.com or call 866-380-AQUA. That's 866-380-2782. GCN listeners use promo code GCN for an 8% discount. Go to airandaqua.com. That's airandaqua.com. Purify your life today.
How do you spell hard-hitting talk radio? GCN. The Genesis Communications Radio Network.
You've entered another dimension. You've entered the Paracast.
Our co-host roundtable covering the paranormal with Greg Bishop, Nick Redfern, Paul Kimball, Chris O'Brien. We were talking about exposing the fakers. What do you guys think of, I'll mention one movement that's kind of weird, that I consider fake, misguided, whatever, exopolitics. Who wants to say something?
Go ahead. Let it loose. Go ahead, guys.
Greg?
Yeah. I'll let Paul go first because I know he's going to do the best one, and then we're going to follow and try and ice that cake, but I'm not sure if we can. Go, Paul.
Yeah, I'll add some sprinkles.
Look, here's my comment on exopolitics. I'm going to sum it up in a nutshell. I'm going to say right now exactly what it's worth, the commentary that we should be putting towards it. Here it comes. Starts with a beep. 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 There you go. Between those 2 beeps, that's what I have to say about exopolitics.
Okay, the end of exopolitics, and we don't need the sprinkles, we don't need the syrups, we don't need the whipped cream. What about disclosure? There are some people that are actively saying, hey, we've got to do something to force the government to tell what it knows. This goes back to Major Donald Keogh in the 1950s. In 1956, he wrote a book called The Flying Saucer Conspiracy. There was a silence group in the government keeping UFO information a secret. So, Nick Redfern, you've covered secrecies and conspiracies and such. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there is a certain amount of information on UFOs held by, when you say the government, sort of as a quasi-collective term for somebody hiding something. I do think there is evidence that we haven't got to see everything that certain people in officialdom know. Now, the big question is whether or not they're planning one day to disclose it. And, of course, disclosure, we hear these things year in, year out. Disclosure's coming this year. Oh, the election means it's going to be put off till next year, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things I found with people who are particularly new but enthusiastic about the disclosure movement is that they're woefully ignorant of some of the things that have gone on in the past, which I know Greg will particularly be aware of, where there have been rumours and allegations that government agencies are supposedly going to reveal the truth. Now, this happened supposedly with the Walt Disney Corporation in the 50s, that they were going to be shown or given film footage to show the general public. Then there were stories in the late 70s and early 80s about Air Force intelligence supposedly planning to release certain information to elements of the UFO community to again prepare people. The same sort of things happened in the 90s. Really, there's actually enough information there for somebody to write a very good paper on how the whole disclosure movement has had its precursors with these attempts, or quasi-attempts, if you like, on the part of the government to, quote, release information, which conveniently never happens. So I think when you look at it at the bigger picture, then you see a pattern emerging where, to an extent, the UFO community, the research community, has been almost like dangling on a string, so to speak. A lot of people new to disclosure assume that this is just a new thing with the government planning to reveal information. But, I'm quietly confident that in the same way it's never happened in the past, it's not going to happen now. If there is a big secret that's being withheld, I think it'll either surface by accident, that documents get released by mistake and it opens the floodgates, or there'll be a change in the approach from whoever or whatever is flying the UFOs. I don't think anybody in government has a vested interest in revealing the truth, because if there is a big truth to be revealed, revealing it when there's actually no need to, without the aliens landing or whatever, only causes them more trouble. So it's just a completely illogical approach to suddenly open the floodgates and tell everybody, okay, we've been lying the last 60 years. It serves no purpose.
Yes, but do you really think the government's going to ever admit it lie to people? I mean, the government's perfect,
No.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think that would only happen. I think if, people talk about the whole fear factor. Could it be a case that, perhaps further down the line there are people in government who feel that controlling the populace via a manufactured threat, that might convince them to do something like that. But just doing it for the sake of it because they want to, it's finally time to tell the public, to me that's crazy. Governments don't do that. They don't prepare and tell the public because they feel, their conscience has got the better of them and it's time to let us know. That's just absurd.
Governments act in other interests.
There has to be a compelling reason for that. And I've talked about this on your show and with all the guests here. My opinion of it is that I don't think the government entities in any government in the world knows much more about the phenomenon than we do. If they do know more about it, they just have more data. They don't know why. They don't know where the things come from. They don't know how to control it. They don't know how to control people's, how that interacts with people. But they do know how to control the perception of it, and that's what they can do. I think until there's some compelling reason to reveal part of what is known, that's just not going to happen. And there's not much to reveal in the first place. And if you do reveal, as Nick said, that you don't really know what's going on or how to control it, that's admitting that's an admission of weakness. And no government anywhere wants to show that they're weak.
Now, what kind of government attitude do you see in Canada, Paul?
What, the paranormal, UFOs? The government hasn't officially looked into the UFO phenomenon since really the late 1960s, but effectively, sort of the early to mid 1970s. It was eventually transferred. A number of different departments, from the RCMP to the Royal Canadian Air Force to the Department of Transport, various government departments for various reasons looked into UFO cases and different aspects of them. But eventually it was all transferred out after the Condon report came down in the late 1960s to the National Research Council, and then eventually they transferred it out to civilian hands. And it's basically run by a guy, as I understand it, named Chris Rutkowski, a very good researcher out in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And if reports come in, they seem to tend to go to him. He co-authors a yearly report up here in Canada on UFO sightings based on the reports that he accumulates. But that's the official stance. In the 50s and 60s, members of Parliament would ask questions. I don't know if anyone's ever checked the congressional records to see whether members of Congress, Senate, or the House of Representatives were asking questions in the 50s and 60s about UFOs. But I know somebody in Canada has, because I was the guy who did that. I went through all of Hansard for about 45 or 50 years, starting in the late 1940s. And you can see that there were a couple of jokey questions, but by and large, when the topic came up, it was taken seriously. And then it all stopped in the late 1960s. Politicians, there hasn't been a single question since the late 1960s asked in the Canadian House of Commons about the UFO phenomenon, except for one. And it was asked about a grant that was given to a researcher to put together a history of the UFO phenomenon. He got $6,000, and a member of the opposition asked the government, well, what are you giving this guy $6,000 for? We have the Condon report, which basically gives you everything you need to know. So that's a waste of money. That's it. And so it just dried up in the late 1960s, early 1970s, but I think that's true pretty much everywhere in terms of official interest. partly because I don't think there was anything. I honestly think they figured out there wasn't much more they could do. I come from the school of thought that says the government really doesn't know very much more about what these things might be or might not be than we do. If anything, they don't know much more. So there's not a whole lot they can do. I think when they say things like Nick Pope, our friend Nick Pope is always saying, the government found that there was no defense significance. Well, in a sense, I think they're probably right. There's no defense significance because whatever it is, we can't do anything about it. So there's really nothing to defend because we have nothing to defend with. I think that's sort of the attitude that's taken up here. I've talked to politicians. I've talked to cabinet members, federal cabinet members in Canada about the UFO phenomenon off the record at parties. And, they expressed, one guy I wrote about it, Jeff Regan, who's our Minister of Fisheries, which sounds odd, but...
Let's have a cliffhanger. That
Sure.
sounds odd. This is a cliffhanger. Paul Kimball, Christopher O'Brien, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop. You're in the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans a galaxy, a thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition."
It's the #1 reason for slow and clogged bath drains. That's right, hair. And the #1 way to open drains plugged with hair? The Drain Claw. Stop standing in dirty bath water. Stop using dangerous chemicals. Just push the Drain Claw past the pop-up in your sink or tub, twist, and pull. You'll be shocked at what this little tool can pull out of your drain. The Drain Claw has over 100 tiny hooks that claw through hair, toothpaste, and shampoo that slows and clogs your drains. See how it works right now at thedrainclaw.com. The Drain Claw is made in the USA and is the safest, easiest, most environmentally friendly solution to unclog bath drains. Get one for $6.99 or 3 for $15. The Drain Claw can be used over and over. Don't be fooled by substitutes. Buy the original. Buy the Drain Claw. Order now at thedrainclaw.com. That's the Drain Claw at thedrainclaw.com.
Hi, I'm Mark Craighead, founder of Crossbreed Holsters. I designed our top-selling holster, the Super Tuck Deluxe, to solve the problems of being poked, pinched, and gouged while carrying concealed. The Super Tuck Deluxe is the most comfortable, most concealable holster on the market today. We offer a 2-week free trial and a lifetime warranty.
Visit us at crossbreedholsters.com. Don't forget, crossbreedholsters.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Where have all the military surplus stores gone? Don't worry, you don't need one, because everything you need at Military Surplus is at MaineMilitary.com. That's M-A-I-N-E Military.com, one of the last surviving true military surplus stores in the country. Go online now to MaineMilitary.com and discover a source for hard-to-find surplus items at true surplus prices. Surplus gun cleaning kits as low as $2.99. Complete chemical suits as low as $11.99. See our huge selection of gas masks, filters, and accessories. Finish at M10 gas masks are 3 for $30, and Swiss filters are 3 for $12. Searching for Strike Anywhere matches? MainMilitary.com has them, plus a whole new product line of survival and first aid kits and lots more. Get free shipping on orders over $50 only at MainMilitary.com. That's MAINE military.com, or call 877-608-0179, 877-608-0179. MainMilitary.com, the main name in military supply.
Tired of searching for great talk radio? Search no more.
I just want to hear more of it.
We are the GCN Radio Network.
This is the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
You're in the Paracast with Chris O'Brien, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop, and before we paused, briefly, Paul Kimball had a cliffhanger, please.
Well, I was just saying that I've talked to politicians, I've talked to scientists, I've talked to all sorts of people, lawyers, doctors, about the UFO phenomenon. The idea that and the paranormal in general, I should add, everything from ghosts to near-death experiences, you name it, I've talked about it. And the idea that it is frowned upon or laughed at by intelligent thinking people is patently ridiculous. I think those intelligent thinking people don't particularly want to stand up in front of a crowd and admit that they're interested in it, but they are. And I tell you this quick little story. I was at a gathering of members of my extended family, one of whom was a retired lawyer, one of whom was a retired top test pilot for a major American aerospace company, and another one was a retired senior civil servant for Canadian government. So, these are guys with university degrees who've accomplished an awful lot in their lives, very intelligent people. I won't name them, but let's just say that's who they are. And we started talking about UFOs because Stan Friedman is part of my family, and his name came up. And I asked them, I said, well, what do you think of UFOs? And they all said, well, it's very interesting. We certainly wouldn't rule aliens from Zeta Reticuli out or anything else. And then I asked them because I thought, okay, well, let's find out what they think is really weird. Let's see where the line is. And I said, well, what do you think about the idea of ancient astronauts? The Eric von Däniken kind of stuff. The aliens were visiting here and maybe structured our civilization thousands of years ago. And they went, yeah, could be. That sort of makes sense. And I said, okay, I thought that was going to be the line, but I'll try this one. I said, what do you think about the idea that there was an ancient civilization on this planet, call it Atlantis, for lack of a better word, that maybe was destroyed 10, 20, who knows how many thousands of years ago? And they went, well, yeah, actually, that's probably more likely than UFOs. And I said, well, apparently there is no baseline. There's nothing I can go by here. But those are the kind of conversations that happen all the time. It's like being in a bar and looking at a girl, or if you're a girl and looking at a guy, and you're thinking, oh, my God, is she looking at me? Meanwhile, she's over there thinking, oh, my God, is he looking at me? Because he's cute, and you're thinking she's cute. And the truth is you're both interested in each other, but you're kind of afraid, both of you are afraid to talk about it. And I think that's what the paranormal is sometimes. The guy is interested in the girl is interested in the guy, but they just aren't sure whether they should say anything. And it's okay to come out of the closet or from behind the laughter curtain, folks. There's more of us talking about it with, intelligent people talking about it intelligently than there are not. In fact, if you're not talking about it, then you have something to be embarrassed about, as far as I'm concerned, because it just means you're not thinking.
Chris.
Very good analogy, Paul. I absolutely agree with you there. In terms of the question of disclosure and the whole exopolitics movement that we're seeing, I've always felt that the government has been able to accumulate quite a bit more data than we have. I mean, just think of how many thousands of examples of, let's say, gun camera footage of objects being chased by fighter planes and that sort of thing. I think the government has had quite a bit of time to accumulate a lot of data. And I think the amount of data that they've accumulated that is beyond, public awareness is about equal to the amount of confusion that they have about the phenomenon as it relates to our level of confusion. So they know a heck of a lot more in terms of the actual hard scientific data, and that means that they're that much more confused. I think that this is not a subject that they want to ever disclose. I think Brazil, England, France, these other countries coming forward with arguably some sort of disclosure process is taking the heat off the United States, who I think is really the holder of probably the most important of this data. And I don't think it's our government that's holding this data. As I said before, I really have a sense that the military-industrial complex, the aerospace companies, your contractors who are involved with heavy-duty, multi-billion-dollar budgets for black projects, I think they're the ones that are probably the ones holding on to the deepest, darkest secrets in this realm.
So basically, the corporations that contribute those millions of dollars to the candidates to get them elected, they not only control the purse strings, they control what's going on here.
Yeah. It's been farmed out. The military may have a bit of a leg up on your standard bureaucrat. Your elected officials, I think, would be the last people to really brought into the loop. They have no need to know. I think presidents have been kept out of the loop. To me, I think it's a pipe dream. If anybody thinks that the government, who's been lying to us arguably for 60 years, even if they did fess up and tell us the truth, how could you believe them? They've been lying for 60 years. So to me, it's a pipe dream. And anybody that wastes any time in that particular realm, I think you need to, instead of trying to batter down the front door, you need to be coming up through the basement, through the windows, through the side door, through the back door, to gain information. That's why the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, in its limited way, I think has been a really important tool that ufologists have utilized, and we got to continue just taking it one baby step at a time to try to figure out the extent of their knowledge.
Greg.
Well, I think what Chris said about the corporations, you would think that somebody listening would think, well, he's a conspiracy theorist, and he just thinks that these corporations have all the power. And I don't think that's the reason for it. I don't know. Might be part of the reason. But I think the main reason for it is because the corporations under U.S. law are still considered private citizens, and they don't have to disclose anything. They're not subject to FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, because they're not the government. So that's why I agree with Chris that all of the good data has probably been squirreled away there. And that's why I also think, like Chris said, that the answers are not going to come from the government. They're going to come from us and from forward-thinking scientists and people who use their brains and logic to try and figure this out. And I think the breakthrough will probably come from somebody who's not even interested in UFOs at all. Some physicist or some sociologist or some mathematician or something that realizes that there's a whole tangential way of thinking about reality that we haven't given enough credence to yet or had enough evidence for that satisfies most people. I think that's what's going to happen. If anything's going to change, like Chris says, it's going to come from outside the government. It's going to come from people looking at the subject in a different way and in a concerted way and maybe in a way that's perpendicular to what most of us have been pursuing for the past 50-something years.
Greg, we're almost at the end of this first relaunch of the Paracast. We only have a couple of minutes left. Tell our listeners where they can find more of the things that you do.
Well, probably the main place now is Radio Mysterioso, which is my radio show, paranormal radio show. Everybody on this show, with the exception of Eugene, has been a guest on that program.
And he never asked me. How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
I'm asking you now, Gene. You have to come on the show. Or UFOmystic.com.
Call my agent.
Yes.
Where's that site?
I will. RadioMysterioso.com, RadioMysterioso.com, or UFOmystic.com. Nick and I write at that site, or ExcludedMiddle.com, which is a magazine that I co-edited and wrote for in the 1990s, which shows a lot of my early development and a lot of influences on my thinking, basically by the people I interviewed.
Nick Redfern, we know about UFOmystic.com. Where else can we find more about your stuff?
My main website is nickredfern.com, and I do a lot of blogging on various subjects, whether cryptozoology, UFOs, etc., and all the blogs are linked at the main website, and I try and update those at least a couple of times a week. So for all the news, reviews, interviews, things like that, people click on the blog section of the website, they'll find all the stuff that I'm investigating right now.
Chris O'Brien, where do we find you?
We live in a strange planet, so I've come up with a website called OurStrangePlanet.com, OUR Strange Planet. Again, I post interesting news stories that crop up every week, and Also, you can find out more about my books and other projects that I'm working on there.
Paul Kimball, where can we find you other than the local pub?
Oh, I was going to say the local strip club, but you can find me at Orby McOrby's orbemporium.ca, which I have, if you've heard the clicking sound, folks, I've been working on registering that as the episode has been going along. So coming soon to an internet site near you, or redstarfilms.blogspot.com, or Google my name, and the good stuff will come up.
And to find out more about the Paracast, go to theparacast.com. Don't forget theparacast.com. The forums at forum.theparacast.com. We've got lots of wild stuff coming in future episodes of the Paracast. Chris O'Brien, Paul Kimball, Nick Redfern, Greg Bishop, thank you all for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Looking forward to it. We're going to have some great times, lots of good guests.
The Paracast is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.